Friends, hello and welcome to a very special hobby stream here on Hobby Titans, the new sister channel of Tabletop Titans.
Yeah. So excited for our first live stream.
Me too, we did it.
Channel.
We did it. The man sitting to my left was once described by the 14th and current Dalai Lama as smelling vaguely of dryer sheets. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it means that the clothes I was wearing that day were freshly laundered, which is,
which is good.
Something to aspire to.
Yeah. I don't know what he meant by it.
I choose to interpret that as a compliment.
Yeah, it was just a fact, I guess, at the very least. Brett, speaking of industrial equipment, like
dryers?
Like dryers.
That's quite the segue.
Yeah, did you know that every year in the United States, 770 workers lose their lives to industrial equipment?
Oh, I did not.
Yeah, and it's actually not all bad news because that number's been going down a lot, on average about 2% a year. And I was looking up data for this because we're going to be talking today about some horrible industrial equipment. And I was looking up data for it, and it only goes back so far. But man, can you imagine what it must have been like in like the 20s and the 30s? And
yeah, or in the 41st millennium.
Yes, right. We're very lucky today, and those people 100 years ago, not as lucky as you and I are. And I think the people in the 41st millennium, probably very not lucky.
The 41st millennium is not a fun place.
Yeah, and if you thought the war zones were bad, what do you think? The industrial mining is like, right?
That's right.
Well, let's jump in, guys. We are ready to get creative. So what are we making today? We're making a workplace, and here is that workplace. What Brett and I are going to be doing is we're going to be working with two components. One is the Sector Mechanicus kit, and I'll show you exactly which one I'm using because there are a few different Sector Mechanicus kits from Games Workshop. And in addition, we're going to be working with pink foam. Brett's on pink foam duty today.
Yes.
Now we've already cut the pink foam, which is a little sad, I know. You can see what we've really built here is almost like a diorama, and I think that was actually Brett that pointed this out. He said you kind of made a diorama / terrain piece. So what we end up with is this sort of, I guess diorama, 3-walled. It almost looks like one of those walls you practice tennis on by yourself. A 3-walled concrete structure, and inside of this 3-walled concrete structure you can put anything. And what makes that exciting is you could just toss scatter in here, but really, like we titled this video, the real title of the video, the fake title was Help Want It, Must Love Radiation. The real title is about stretching your purchase, right? So you buy a Sector Mechanicus kit, and then you're going to stretch it out, make it a big piece. This thing is actually 14 inches long, if you can believe it. When I measured and did the cut for the pink foam, it is actually 14 inches long. So 14 inches long. Of course, it is 5 inches high to trigger the obscuring keyword for 40K players in 9th edition. Yeah, what do you think?
I think there's a lot of options here, and we're going to explore one potential way you could make this a cool terrain piece. But yeah, to your point, this has a lot of potential for you to personalize. We're going to do sort of some imperial terrain today, but this could be a lot of different things. You could chaos it up, you could Tyrannid it up, you could do a lot of different. This could end up looking very different depending on what table you have it planned for.
Tyranniding it up, that's kind of hard to say. Tyranniding it up would be kind of interesting, actually. I think we could do some stuff with like Magisculpt and tentacles. So the idea is you make your pink foam, this big base. This kit right here is what we're using today. This is the Sacristan Fordshire kit from Games Workshop. The Sector Mechanicus stuff comes in, it's like, 5 or 6 different sprues, all repackaged in 5 or 6 different boxes, is what you're buying. I actually found, and I've had a lot of them, I actually found this one to be one of the best. It lacks only one thing that the Sector Mechanicus stuff comes with, which is a straight, flat panel. You only get these octagonal panels. But other than that, it comes with the what are these called?
Struts,
girders, the girders, whatever. Yeah. It comes with the girders. It comes with the cool little skull guy.
That's a crane. That's for that's some kind of a chain lift. Yeah, I like that. Right.
Yeah, it comes with. You can see it on the box here. It comes with the. Let me see. There you go. It comes with this center tube here, which we're not working with today. I'm going to use that for something else. But I think it's actually a pretty good box. I think it's a pretty good pickup. I think it's $40, if I'm correct. So if you are wondering, which Sector Mechanicus piece is best, it also comes with some cool scatter, which we're not going to work with today. I think it's probably one of the best. So I would say that one, and then I apologize, I don't remember, but any of them that have the long straight panels are also, because you can build cool walkways.
Yeah, cool gangways. Yeah.
So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how I paint those, and we're going to do a couple kind of interesting things that we haven't done yet on the stream, including some weathering, some rust effects. You might have seen in that video some rust effects, and some copper verdigris, which is like copper and bronze oxidizing, making that kind of aqua color that's really beautiful, actually.
This is a really cool effect, and I love the way it comes out on these terrain pieces. I mean, it sort of has limited usage on models, maybe something on tanks, but how much copper is used on tanks?
Yeah.
Maybe in the 41st millennium, but copper's a terrible metal to make tanks out of.
I imagine, I don't know.
But let's it'll work well on our terrain.
Yeah, so that's it. So Brett, meanwhile, is on, like we said, on pink foam duty over here. Sorry, I guess we don't need this anymore. He's going to be painting up our pink foam workstation, I guess I'm going to call it.
Yeah, this is this is the foundation for the diorama for the terrain piece.
Yeah.
One thing I like about doing it this way is there's very little obscuring area terrain that has no windows in it. Usually there's some windows and sort of there's some line of sight blocking, and this one has a huge impact on gameplay, whether you play it this way or this way.
Yep.
And so you have a lot of variation in how the board plays. There's a lot of replayability with a terrain piece like this because it has a completely different effect on the game.
You can put anything in it, right? Do an industrial structure or a ruin. Yeah. So should we get going?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what to do. I know what to do. We're doing two different things a little bit today, but we'll still talk, right?
Yeah. I'm going to get started. My first step is to start making this thing gray. So you saw in the intro, we've primed this black. We've cut the pink foam to size before the show, but I'm going to get started on making it gray, making it look like concrete.
Yeah. Now, as Brett gets started on that, we've cut pink foam in the past. We've mostly cut really flat, nothing interesting. For once here, we've actually kind of cut an angle. And I'm not showing you that. And you're like, the one time Zach actually does an interesting cut, he doesn't show us. Hang in there. A couple weeks from now, we're actually going to build a centerpiece for this board that we're working on.
Yeah.
And we're going to show you in that stream definitely how to do it. And it'll have you a few more interesting cuts. But how to make cuts that are more than just a rectangle or a square. Yeah.
Right.
What I want to show, Brett, real quick, if we can zoom in when you get a chance. I want to show something I did here on this Sector Mechanicus piece. You'll notice that something is already stuck here like this. This is actually a ladder kit. I've been blabbing to Adrian for like a couple weeks about this. If you guys go into almost any of your codexes, your 40K codexes or anything like that, campaign books, you'll notice that they do this all the time. They take ladder kits from ladder pieces from different kits, and they use them as railings. Now, the Sector Mechanicus one does come with this long ladder, and I actually painted all of them up because I like the long ladder, and this ladder in particular is nice. You can kind of just hide it under there. I never glue my ladders, by the way. Guys, don't glue your ladders. They're just going to break, right? Like this. But all these little tiny ladders, these ladders actually came from a different kit. They came from that, the stuff that came, the Necromunda terrain. What was that called? Hive, Underhive. I can't remember what it's called now. The Necromunda terrain, what we all call the Necromunda terrain, right?
That one.
Yeah, and basically what I did is I shaved off, dremeled off the bumps on two ladders, cut the curvy, ladder thing that you would use to climb, and then I plastic glued them to this kit. Then I primed the whole thing. They're really on there very good. They could probably break off, But if you, like a lot of us, are accumulating millions of ladders with your terrain purchases and not using them because they always break off when you use them like ladders, this is a great way to use them. And I cannot, like I said, take credit for this idea. This idea comes from Games Workshop themselves. We look at all the terrain in the background, which I encourage you guys to do. This is another thing Adrian and I were talking about. A lot of my ideas for industrial terrain especially come from taking like a codex, and it's like, oh, here's the picture of the Harlequins about to kill a bunch of Imperial Guard. And I ignore that, and instead I focus on what's in the background, and what's in the background frequently is lots of interesting uses of their own kits.
Yeah.
And this is one of them right here.
I like that a lot. I feel like, you've got a couple of these ladders used on the main terrain piece that we just showed earlier.
Yeah.
And those, I look at that and I'm like, man, those are just gonna break. There's like
here, right.
It's gonna take
Adrian, what, like one game?
Yeah, this is not Adrian safe. Those ladders are not Adrian safe.
Not Adrian safe, but I never glue them. And this one, for the Sector Mechanicus, is amazing.
That's
like,
clever.
I think they
press fits in.
It press fits in, and it's the only one that does it. These ones I cut up don't do that. They want you to like glue them delicately on the piece.
I see that now. Those are different ladders. Yeah.
Very different ladder, and great. So yeah, these I do paint up and I do use. So while Brett gets going on his first coat, there's nothing really special to what he's doing. He's just covering a lot of ground.
Yep. I'm just airbrushing gray.
I'm going to do the same thing. So when we're painting, we're going to start with these floors, which I just showed you guys where the ladder was. When we are painting this, our first coat is always some kind of dark silver. We have a ton of Reaper paints, which are great. I'm using one called Blackened Steel. This is the equivalent from Games Workshop, from Citadel, of I believe it's called Lead Belcher. It's like it's like the very dark silver.
Yep.
And
I use this all the time. I've one from Vallejo called Oily Steel. It's like a dark, gritty, metallic silver color.
Yeah. So this is a great undercoat for metallics. And you guys would be happy to know. I know some people in the past have worried that Brett and I are not using a mask while we airbrush. We actually realized that we have like this filter thing here in the office for when we hobby or take videos with the fog machine.
Yeah, the fog machine makes some really nasty smells, and this filter does a great job of just completely getting rid of them.
Well, we hope so. Well, maybe we hope it's doing a great job of that. But we actually realized if we put it on one of its lower settings, it's like kind of right in between the camera and us, and so we think that's probably an improvement. But we do appreciate you guys worrying about our health. So nothing special here for me, just like for Brett. We are literally just covering ground, turning this thing from black to slightly dark silver. And as we've said time and time again, that is because we do not want completely stark black in our face. So that's it. That was pretty quick. My ladders are already done.
Done already? Oh my gosh.
Well, these are really fast, right? My ladders are already completed. I painted those this previous week. So first, just putting down this dark silver. I'm going to add some of it back into here, and that's it. Brett, how are you doing?
I'm making progress. I'm going to try to do a couple coats here. I don't know how important it is to get like even coverage. I guess it's okay if I have some splotchiness here.
And keep in mind, like, you're doing gray over top of black.
Yeah.
So, that they're like the same, color kind of, right? So it's totally okay. Now, one thing I'm going to show you guys with this next layer of paint that I do, I'm going to show you guys a super easy, super fun weathering technique that I do sometimes. I probably didn't invent it, although I've never seen anyone else do it, but I strongly imagine that they have. I call this, I don't know, wet masking or water masking. And
oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's really easy. You need an airbrush to do it. And you want to be working on something like this, like metal or some industrial equipment, something that can get a little sloppy. Depending on your army, maybe like you could do it on a tank or a vehicle. It's really simple, but it does kind of create an effect that we don't have a lot of control over. So when Brett gets a chance,
but that's good for an effect that's meant to be like weathering,
Exactly, yeah. So here we go. There's our dark silver is on there now. And what we're going to do, real simple, I'm going to take what I use to clean my airbrush, and I'm going to like squirt some areas of water on it. And I'm not going to let that water dry too much. Actually, I mean, like at all. And then I've got some spots of water there. And then I'm going to airbrush my next color over top of that whole mess. And the next color is going to be true silver, which is sort of like a brighter silver. I think the GW equivalent of this is either Runefang steel, but everybody has kind of like a basic silver.
So the idea here is that the areas where the water is, the paint won't stick, and so you can then wipe off the paint later after it's dried.
It's gonna like,
else,
yeah, it's
right?
actually almost more like just gonna kind of like slosh around on its own.
Yeah.
And the whole kind of look that you're gonna get is just messy, just like you can kind of see it happening here as I do this. Now, I'm not painting every area with the silver. You can see I'm actually leaving the edges of these panels, of these floor panels, the dark color. So I'm just kind of going down the middle. I do want to hit the ladder a little bit. We are, as always, it is terrain. We are going to be tinting this in the end. So this is not what it's going to look like, but that's it. So the process is very easy. You are using one of the easiest resources ever to work with, which is water. So it's also very cheap. And you end up with this kind of wacky look. In a second here, after I clean this true silver out of my airbrush, I will show you a couple other ways to interact with this technique. You could just let it sit here like this, in which case you would want to maybe let it dry. You could actually pick it up and move it around, let it slosh around, let it get kind of messy. The final way you can interact with it, which is what I'm going to do, is I'm actually going to use this cotton swab to pick up some of the water in the area where we just covered here.
Oh,
so
nice.
You can see this effect, Brad, if you want to.
Yeah.
And that's it. And what we end up getting is like these just messed up looking areas. What are they? I don't know. The metal's messed up. I don't know.
We're just looking for different ways to make the surface kind of non-standard.
That's right.
It's had something happen to it through the years.
Exactly.
In the last 10,000 years, something's happened to this gangway, and we don't know what it is, but it looks different from the rest of the gangway.
Exactly. So you get these kind of just areas of messiness. You could even do this, and I have. You could even do this like over the black. So your first coat, you've got your black primer down, and your first coat, you just right over top of it, just squirt the water right away on the black primer, and what would be left under here is black. But keep in mind, I know I always say we don't want stark black, but we are going to be tinting this a lot. We're going to be doing a lot of other effects. So I've done that before. In fact, I'll see if I can find the piece here that I did it on. It's right here. Yeah. Let me see, where is it actually? Oh yeah, there it is. And we'll show you guys, I'll set it here and I'll show you in a sec what happens when you do it over top of black primer. Or excuse me, yeah, over the black primer under your first base coat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's, you can do this earlier in the process or later in the process, and you end up with a different effect depending on when you do it.
That's right. I would say you can actually do it multiple times in the process and get some cool stuff going on. So Brett, if you want to, if you don't mind zooming in, I'll see if I can point this out to people here. We've got a nice zoom. Bridger and Brett worked on like this amazing zoom for us. Where is it? Is this the one? Nope, here. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to see, but it's like in here. We're going to do, oh, there it is. There's a piece of it right there. It kind of just, you guys probably can't see. You probably just see the rust effects. But it just looks like chipped, like metal or like scorched. So like something happened to it.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Okay, so my panels here are done as far as just getting airbrush coats down. My next step on these is going to be to tint them. We're going to tint them when we tint everything else. And then also we're going to do a dry brush on these. These are actually the easiest thing we're working with today. I just kind of want to get them out of the way. So I'm going to set them off to the side. And we're going to move on to the next step, which is these panels.
Can I just say one more thing about that process? When you were telling me about it earlier, I was kind of floored because I'd never heard of that before. Just putting some water on before you airbrush and then dabbing it up after you apply paint.
Yeah.
The thing I love about it the most is that it doesn't require any product. Like, there's nobody trying to sell me another hobby product to like achieve some desired effect. Just like
hobby water, masking water.
Just take some water, sprinkle it on your planks, and then do your normal process of painting them.
We should sell masking water.
Oh my gosh.
We should sell a bottle and
as a
just
meme.
Brett and Zach's masking water. Yeah. And you just use it, and it comes with a little squirt top. It's just like this with our faces on it.
Yeah.
And it's just special water for masking.
No, but it's a dehydrated masking water, so you have to rehydrate it by filling it in the bottle.
It's a powder. It's like an inert powder that we sell, and then we tell people to add water.
Zach, that's the joke. It's an empty bottle.
Oh, it's a totally empty bottle.
It's a dehydrated masking water. It's an empty bottle. It's just an empty bottle.
Which, I mean, really is a good purchase. These are awesome, Anyway. Okay, now, speaking of masking, you guys saw me here when the top down. I'm doing a little bit of masking on these panels. These are the panels that go on our walkways. They come with the Sector Mechanicus kit. All the Sector Mechanicus kits have these. And this guy's dry enough. They connect like that here to make cool panels. And that's what we're going to paint next. So, like that, right?
Nice.
Yeah. So I did some masking, and what I did already, for those of you who watched when I painted my Simhan, I went in with the airbrush and I hit this with like a copper color, and I hit some areas with a copper color already before the stream, and then I masked those copper colored areas with my AK brand masking putty.
Which is different from normal silly putty in what way?
Well, again, I'm not entirely sure. I have not tried silly putty yet. That's what Adrian says he uses.
But I'm sure it's better some way, right? Because it's branded. It must be.
It must be. I love AK products, so I don't want to suggest that they're selling Zach and Brett's dehydrated masking water, but it does seem an awful lot like silly putty. So I will say that.
Did your mic fall out?
Oh, yeah, it did. Okay, thanks, guys. So, cloudy gray. This is a dark gray. I want my panels to kind of almost be white, but they're going to be highly weathered and beat up a bit because we're going to do, like I said, tinting for the environment. We're continuing to build for the taiga board that we've been working on, which is like the boreal forest, northern pine forest kind of look. And things there going through lots of weather, right? You get rainy springs and rainy summers and fall. You get short summers. You get heavy freeze-thaw cycles.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff going on. So we're going to actually heavily weather this, everything, right? Moisture, ice, wind, heat. If you're in that Arctic environment, sun, you're getting all everything.
Of the above. It's like we're on the TV show Alone.
What is that? Oh, you know that show where people get dropped off in the wilderness that you were telling me about?
That's the show, yeah.
That's the show. I ended up watching a little bit of it this past weekend because I don't watch cable, but I was in a hotel, which means you only watch cable.
Which means you only watch cable, yeah.
Yeah, and we watched some of it, and it seemed okay.
It's not terrible.
They were in teams, though.
Yeah, they've done different themes on their different seasons.
Okay.
One season they did teams.
Okay.
I don't know. What'd you think? Is it good?
It's weird to just see people totally stark naked.
Oh, that's a different show. That's Naked and Alone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So let me clarify then. The one I saw, people were totally stark naked in like the Florida Everglades, I want to say.
Yeah, that's a different show.
And I was like, I'm sure there's lots of people, I'm sure there's thousands of people in the Florida Everglades right now stark naked because it's Florida and that's just kind of like a thing, right? But they actually made a show of this. And it was weird to just see like the people there doing things totally naked.
I get that.
Yeah, it was a little odd.
It's an interesting theme for a show, though.
Yeah, it was interesting. Naked and alone.
Hey, so you've got your masking liquid applied, masking putty applied.
Yeah, real masking.
We're going to do some, yeah, okay, nice.
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
so I'm done with our Mechanicus Standard Gray.
That looks nice and uniform.
I put on a couple thin coats, and I'm going to switch over to the next color, which is Dawnstone. And this is a slightly lighter gray. I'm going to apply like 70 to 90% coverage. Try to get a little bit of modeling in there, and get some texture and color variation across the piece. Make it look like concrete. Concrete's not uniform. So, but this is sort of, we talk about how, like, what color is the thing. This piece of concrete that we're making is somewhere between this darker gray color and this Dawnstone.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we're gonna achieve that by kind of mostly applying this, but not all the way.
Now, if you guys are followers of the stream, and those who are, thank you in advance. But when Brett and I did our industrial blocks, they're actually over here. These guys from a few weeks back with the hazard stripes.
Yep.
This is the same recipe, because these are all going to be on the same board. So we wanted them to look like, well, we wanted them to match, right?
Yep.
And the video you guys saw of the completed one, which is behind us here, we put hazard striping on this one, but today we're not going to do hazard striping because it's kind of a pain in the butt. This one had the hazard striping on it, and we are going to do stencils here though on the back. Brett's going to take care of these.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I've never actually used stencils before. Before our Croot tents that we did last week, that was my first time. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It was a fun process.
Yes, so those were homemade stencils, and we are using one homemade stencil today, which is just a triangle, nothing special. After cloudy gray on these panels, I still have my masking on. I'm going to be using appropriately named foggy gray. I actually really like, I'll be honest, I really like the way that Reaper does that, because when I then come back a day after painting some of this stuff, I usually line my paints up. But if I'm working and things get a little bit mixed up, I'm like, oh, after I did foggy gray or cloudy gray, what did I use? I'm like, oh, I used foggy gray. And they named them like that, for a reason.
Progressively less intense cloud cover.
Versions of the color.
Or more intense cloud cover.
Yeah. So I kind of like that they do
that.
I don't know. It's a clever way of naming paints. I sort of wish more companies did that.
GW has their naming scheme, which is what proprietary IP do we have that is this color, and let's name it, Tau Ochre or.
Some of them do. GW does it occasionally. For example, on the trees last week, we did Galbor Vach red.
Yeah, and I don't even know what that is. You made it sound like it was something, and I was like, what is that?
Yeah. So and then we did Word Bearers red.
Yeah.
Galvor Bach.
Who's Galvor Bach?
They're Galvor Bach are these when the Word Bearers during the heresy first got corrupted.
Oh yeah.
They're the very first Marines to ever be corrupted by chaos. They're possessed. They're like the Word Bearers version of possessed Space Marines. Yeah.
Okay.
So they're very demony.
Okay.
I think Forge World has models for them.
Gotcha.
But I don't. There's not regular GW models.
So they're super duper possessed.
Yeah. So if we can, Brett, when you get a chance, just do a little bit of this. I'm going to do a little bit of top down here on this guy to give it a little bit of gradient there, like that. Boom. And then this one, same thing, kind of coming at it from the top to get that gradient.
Yep.
We have so many other things we're doing to these panels.
Would you call this a zenithal?
I suppose.
We've had some people ask in the past, what is a zenithal? Do you want to explain what a zenithal is?
I'm seeing here, I'm just hitting it from sort of a generic top angle.
Yeah.
And the general idea is a lot of people kind of get a little bit overwhelmed with thinking about reality when they paint and well, all the light needs to be coming from one direction, or how do I make this work?
Right.
A zenithal highlight is not really a realistic highlight, but it looks good, and you to most people, and you just simply come at something from sort of a top angle, but not exactly a top. I guess 45 degrees off the top, with light colors, colors lighter than the ones you just used. In something like terrain where I'm only doing, the dark shade and the light shade, you can see it produces a little bit of a gradient there on the way down, so they're darker at the bottom than they are at the top.
I think in a classic zenithal highlight is something you apply, you prime your model dark to begin with, and then you apply like a white highlight, not on the entire model, but just from the top down, and so you sort of lighten the top surfaces of the model. The idea being that light would naturally hit those surfaces with white. You prime with, this is like a sort of a priming step, and then you do your base coat, your base color after that. So when the base coat lays down, the surfaces that are top facing end up being slightly lighter than the surfaces that would be
I've never done like an undercoat like that for lighting. But the process sounds similar to how I paint most of my Tau vehicles and my Craft World vehicles. Just that I use it on top. Yeah.
I'm having some technical difficulties with the old airbrush, so I'm switching out to my alternate.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I had one last week, but it's okay now.
Doesn't have a.
Right. Quick release. That's gonna be a big thing when you do that.
Oh, you're right.
The air's gonna for everyone at home. Why don't you use mine, and I'll use the Sotar.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Which does have a quick release. Yes, great.
All right, perfect. Crisis averted. Onwards to Dawnstone.
Guys. Yeah, and I don't know, give it a lot of love with the toothbrush, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so my panels are actually done. I've got my system here. Yep, my panels are done for now. There's a lot more to do on them, but I can take off the masking, so let me do that. Brett, if we can top down here for a little masking reveal. Always fun. By the way, the one kind of interesting about putty is if you put the putty on like the day before to mask, it will turn into it'll just, revert to it wants to lay flat, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. So it'll be a little bit of a mess, actually. You kind of want to putty like right before. I didn't do that with some of these, so it does come off still pretty easy though, which I like. There we go. That's going to be copper. And right here, this little face, nice and copper. And then on the back, I masked some of the instruments a little bit there. So it's great. I mean, like the airbrush gets a lot of paint down really easily. So I love the masking putty. And I guess I could try silly putty, but I'm pretty happy with this so far. Okay, so I'm going to do these beams. Let me show you guys, while Brett's got me on top down, let me show you these real quick, where I'm at with these. I did pre-paint these a little bit. I just put in the first coat. So this is green, and this is red. And for the red, I used Reaper paint, and I used blood stain red for the first coat. We're then going to go up to blood red. There they are again with their great naming. Okay, over here on the green, I used pine green, and what we're going to go up to is mint green, and the theme here is car air freshener smells.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we're going to do a dry brush after we've moved along here on the red of fair highlight, and on the green we're going to do a dry brush of misty gray, which would also go along with foggy and cloudy gray.
Yeah, that's right. I think their grays are named according to weather patterns, and their greens are named according to toothpaste flavors.
Yeah, pine. Yeah.
Well, you don't use pine toothpaste, Zach?
That'd be maybe amazing. I think it would be certainly an experience. If I was somewhere and I saw pine toothpaste, I'd give it a try for sure. Okay, so using the Sotar.
That sounds so awful.
Yeah, I know. Using Sotar. So I've already done the first coat because it's not interesting. I didn't want to, just sit here and do that. You guys also saw on those that there's a little bit of masking going on them. I am going to actually mask one more. Let me show you that. I keep making Brett go to this top down.
It's fine.
Let me show you guys this because I did want to. I intentionally left this copper piece here. You can see on the other green one, I've masked it already before the stream. just to show you how this works. But again, it's no big mystery. But it's still nice to see because, you know, people are like, everyone's, you know, we did our roadblocks to hobby success a while ago. And everyone's got like their thing that they're just like, oh my gosh, that looks scary. I don't want to use it. Probably nobody watching right now is like, ooh, I don't want to touch silly putty. But if you're wondering how to use it for masking, it could not be easier. It's very easy. Like I said, you kind of want to do it right before you paint. It's not something you can really do like the night before and be like, I can't wait to get to that the next day because it'll just all lay flat.
I think, you know, I wonder if there's a thing where the longer you leave it on, maybe it sticks more intensely to whatever you're applying it to, and you might peel off that under layer, under that paint that you're masking over.
Yeah.
And that might be a thing that they've tweaked with this masking putty as compared to just basic silly putty. Maybe it doesn't adhere as well.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do the greens first here. And another question that sometimes comes up is lots of people talk about thinning airbrush paints. And I typically don't thin my airbrush paints.
Heresy.
Yeah, I know. But when I do thin my airbrush paints is lots of times if I've found since I've started using the smaller airbrush here, the Sotar, with my Badger, I almost never have had to do it. With this guy, I kind of like to do it a little bit. And I don't necessarily, I have thinner here. I'm pretty much just going to use water because I'm not doing a lot. And if it looks a little messy, that's okay because it's terrain. But if I was like painting a whole Blood Angels army or something like that right now, oh, actually we're going to do, whew, that was close. If I was doing a whole, well, not Blood Angels anymore with mint green, whatever this is, but whatever Space Marine is mint green. What's the mint green Legion?
The Mantis Warriors.
Okay.
I mean, they're green, but they're not mint green.
Are they this
The toothpaste warriors.
Jordan almond colored green?
I'm gonna try to put this on our turntable and see if that works.
Yeah.
All right. It sort of works. Move the turntable a little closer.
Adjust our key. Yeah, there you go. You could, I mean, with the tinting, so you guys at home looking at that know, with the tinting we're about to do on this, you could stop there. Like three colors is not really necessary. And that looks perfect. And when Brett does the next layer, Administratum Gray, which is like the light gray that we'll also dry brush the edges with when we're totally done, he's gonna do like only 20%, just some spots almost like, is kind of the idea.
All right, so while you're doing that, I'm gonna switch over to the last bit of gray, which is just gonna be for some highlights, Administratum Gray. And we're gonna just pick out some specific areas to highlight.
And you guys, with this top-down view, can see that I'm doing, again, a little Zenithal here. Not super aggressive, but just a little bit. With the mint green, and I did thin the paint by taking this guy, which is water, our masking water, and I squirted just a little bit in there.
Our rehydrated, dehydrated masking water.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like it.
We rehydrated it before the stream today.
Zach, Ernie had a really good suggestion in chat. He said, "What if you made a statue of yourself wearing the apron for a board? What if we did, and then the follow-on? What if we did a statue of all the Titans, like Mount Rushmore style?"
That'd be cool. But let me first start by saying that I'm really glad Ernie's watching.
Yeah, we're doing industrial equipment today.
Yeah, and I mentioned the stats on how much industrial disasters, deaths and fatalities happen every year in the U.S. And
yeah, every time Ernie comments in chat, I'm like, oh good, Ernie didn't die today.
Yeah, I mean, of course it's all a joke. He's probably very responsible, but Ernie, you can't just lay something like that out and expect to ever live it down.
We're all very concerned about you, Ernie.
Yeah. But we're glad to hear you live. The statue of myself idea, I got to tell you, I don't know. I'm like, I think I'd be weirded out by that.
Yeah, it feels like that to me too. I don't know. Like, if I ever became president, I would not aspire to be on Mount Rushmore, you know?
Yeah.
not a thing that I would look forward to or want. Or,
Yeah, Brett and I are not exactly like statues of ourselves guys. You know, like some people want that, the statue of themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not a bad suggestion, Ernie.
I don't know if there was
it'd be funny actually.
If you were to design a Tabletop Titans themed board, what would it be?
Oh gosh, you know, man, I need to be better at this, and in general, I don't have like I'm one of these guys that's the opposite of like a lot of 40K fans, where I'm like, you know, an orc with a guitar. This is not an orc thing for everybody. I know I'm on blast for my orc issues, but like an orc with a guitar or a marine with a guitar, I'm not really into stuff like that. So like the idea of doing like a meta board.
Yeah.
Technically, we already made a Tabletop Titans theme board. It's that purple board.
The underground board.
The underground board. Yeah. And basically, to make it a Tabletop Titans theme, I just made it purple.
Made it purple.
So yeah, I'm not against it. I should do it. It's the type of thing I should probably do for people other than me. Like it's not like, to me, I'm always gonna like.
All right, let me ask the question a different way. If you were to, well, maybe every board you create is a Tabletop Titans themed board because it's awesome terrain with good gameplay, with thought put into the colors and cohesiveness of the ambiance. That's like what the brand's about, right?
I think so. I guess that would be my. That would be both my like cop-out answer.
Cop-out answer, yeah.
But also like I think the healthiest
real
answer.
Yeah.
Like the answer that actually produces like an interesting product.
All right, Zach, how do you feel about this?
It looks amazing.
Did I do enough? Yep. All right, cool.
Okay, and these guys, the green ones are done. So I'm going to move on to blood red. And that's pretty good timing because Brett's going to be doing some tinting. Although we have enough paint to share, I think.
Yep.
I might want to use your known oil.
Oh, that's fine.
This is kind of actually interesting point to make here. When we tint today, as we've been tinting this board all along, we're tinting with 2 Citadel brand shades. Known oil, the infamous, the classic, everyone's favorite, and Anthonian camo shade, which is the medium green, the dingy green we've been using a lot.
Yeah, I love that color for tinting.
Yeah, so we're gonna use a mix of them. A little more Anthonian than known oil, but not too much more. Maybe like 60-40. Doesn't actually really matter the order you put them in, believe it or not. I do known oil first, then Anthonian. But I was painting something the other day for this board and I mixed it up. I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. And it looked, you couldn't tell.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you couldn't
You did
tell.
the order of the shades wrong?
I did the order of the shades wrong. Now, the point I want to talk about today is, went to a local gaming store, Game Castle. They usually have known oil, which is amazing, and today they did not. So got some.
We only have one bottle of it.
We only have one bottle.
We're gonna share.
What's even more annoying is that I have like 4 more bottles at home. I know Brian has a bunch. Like we have them around. So instead, I picked up the Citadel Air Death Shroud Clear. I have used this before as a tint. The Citadel Air clear colors are really interesting. They tend to bring something up as opposed to bringing it down in its brightness. But I have already ran out of known oil. When I was working on Brian's purple board during COVID, known oil was hard to come by, as a lot of products were.
Yeah.
But this was readily available.
Yep.
So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get this.
Yep.
Could not really tell the difference between this and known oil. I almost don't want to tell fans that, because now when I go
it's going to be sold out.
Now this is going to be sold out too.
Yeah.
But if you can't get known oil, but you see the Death Shroud Clear, the difference is super tiny. This is maybe like 5% glossier.
Oh yeah.
And there is a known oil gloss.
There is a known oil gloss.
It's not anywhere close to that. Maybe I would say 5% like glossier.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I can just use
it's a good substitute.
Yeah, it's a good substitute.
And while you're working on that, I'm going to be
stencil time.
Doing the stencils. So what we've got here is these bad boys. So we're going to be doing we're going to be doing S and then D, SD, and then 7. So we've got here on our sample, we did SD6, and so this one that we're making here is going to be SD7.
Now, I will also show, as Brett holds up these stencils, I prepped these for Brett today to use, and I will show that I put some extra blue tape around them. If you don't have these are just stencils I got from like a craft store, and if you don't put extra blue tape around them, you're gonna get overspray. That was just water from me.
Yep.
You're gonna get like overspray, and it looks awful because suddenly, like, you can imagine.
There's a straight line with a little bit of overspray.
Yep, not a good look. Okay, so while he does that, nothing special here that I'm doing, but I'm gonna do a little bit of blood red on my on the pillars. And I'm definitely going to thin red. Red, white, yellow. These are the paints. If ever you need to thin a paint, based on what color it is, those 3 are the colors.
Yep.
So I am going to thin the red, and I'll use the thinner. That's a question, right? Why use thinner versus why use water?
Yeah.
You know, I think if you intend to come back to the paint, you should use thinner.
I think thinner also has a little bit of acrylic retarder in it, so it keeps the paint from drying as quickly. So it's sort of a mixture of thin the paint without. Oh, and thinner is also in theory like a medium. It's like, you know, whatever the paint base is that minus the pigment, it's that same medium, but just like a lower viscosity.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
I think for the most part, I don't feel like I usually have like issues with it.
I can't tell which is up on this S.
Well,
I'm just gonna look at the rest of the letters.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
So yeah, I would say I don't know. You know, honestly, guys, when it comes to thinning airbrush paints, because people really stress about it, and you can find like formulas and like treatises written about it online. My advice, whenever you work with any paint, with your new airbrush, let's say you got an airbrush, just see what happens when you use the paint without doing anything to it first. Always my recommendation. Because if you don't have to do anything to your paint, oh my gosh, you have saved yourself like a headache and a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just kind of doing this because I've noticed the Sotar, the thinner airbrush, is a little more finicky, which makes sense. The needle width is way tinier, although not that much tinier.
All right. So I'm laying down some stencil work.
Now,
We're laying down some blood red.
Now, let's see if he got any overspray. But if he did, or if you do get a little, not really. Pretty much no.
That looks good.
It looks perfect. If you do get overspray, remember, it's just the previous color, right?
Zach, I'm not convinced that's right side up. I mean, I know it's right side up on the stencil, but I guess it's symmetric. Man, that's a funky looking S though.
One of my favorite things, so I've used these combo of stencils before. We have 2 different fonts.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things.
Which font is this?
I don't know. That's like
I bet Adrian would
That's
know.
like an Adrian question. Megan is good with that too.
Megan,
but,
tell us in chat what font this is.
or Adrian if he's watching. Adrian's on vacation. I hope he's not watching. No offense. No offense to us, but I hope Adrian is having a good time. Having a good time on vacation. He deserves it. What I was saying with multiple fonts, usually a bad idea, but I'm kind of like, well, look, I doubt whatever servitors got instructed to go paint these communicated with each other and said, hey guys, what font should we use for the machine god, right? So I was kind of just like, I intentionally want 2 different fonts.
Because they don't collaborate, they don't communicate?
They don't communicate, and I like how stupid it looks.
Yeah.
You know, it looks just like, one is like this army font, and one is like this, well, whatever font here Brett's using. And I'm kind of into it. I'm into the goofiness of multiple fonts.
Yeah. I was spending a little bit of time trying to make sure they were aligned vertically. What's the word? Is that kerning? Or what's the word for vertical? I don't know. Anyway, I was trying to make sure that they were aligned vertically, and I'm not sure I did.
That's okay. Did you see mine?
No, I didn't.
Well, you did, but you didn't notice because you did such a better job than I did.
All right. Top.
Again, I kind of like it. It's like, hey, these guys aren't that good at their jobs.
They're not that good. They're not that good at their jobs.
Hey, this is what happens when you take a criminal from a horrible planet, take out, 90% of his brain, replace it with the servitors, right? Like, who's spray painting these things? It's servitors. It's got to be servitors, right?
Or it's prison gangs.
Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, they're not going to do a good job, right? Brent and I were actually talking about this the other day. We were saying we might need to get one of these for the studio, one of these pink foam cutters that's like the table version.
Yeah.
Because we were saying one of the nice things about doing Imperial terrain up until now is you can kind of cut pink foam like a slob and make it work. In fact, it works better in a lot of ways, in my opinion. But if we're going to ever introduce pink foam into like Alderi boards or
it can't be slobby.
Boards, you're like, I don't know if we're ever...
This is not made, the Eldari pink foam is not made by a servitor. It's made by a craftsman who's honed his craft over 1,000 years.
Exactly.
To carve this pink foam rock.
Exactly. Okay, wow. So I'm done my first batch of airbrushing, which is laying down all the coats. What I'm going to have to do next is tinting. I'm going to put the Sotar away because if it falls, its needle definitely is going to break, and we're going to have a big... sad version of me on the stream. So I'm going to set that away. And what I'm going to be doing as Brett is working on his this. Actually, you know what, Brett? What do you think? It's a good time to check out our question.
Our question for the day.
Guys, we have a little bit of an informal poll we'd like to take. Brett and I have just started here, Hobby Titans, the new channel, the sister channel of Tabletop Titans. We're still going to be interacting with those guys a ton. You're going to see Adrian here. At least Adrian, probably some of everybody. You're going to see us over there. Brett played over there last night, actually.
Super fun game.
Yeah, it was
if
great.
You're a member of Tabletop Titans, you should go check it out. Bridger went easy on me. Not ashamed to admit it, but it made it an amazing game. A little bit of a spoiler. The Vindicare rolled 4 ones in a row. Classic Vindicare. Anyway, sorry, I'm still sort of like so excited about how awesome.
No, it was a really fun game.
It was
and
a ton of fun.
Brian producing is great.
Brian's a hoot producing.
It's inspiring. So
anyway,
we wanted to say, well, while we're here, we want to know. Right now, a lot of you guys watching the stream are super awesome, dedicated fans of that channel and our channel because you're here for our first official channel-only stream. And so one of the questions we want to ask is, what do you guys want to see us do? And so we made a little poll, and the way we'd like this poll to work is very special, and it's very informal. What should Brett and Zach do that would be cool? And I want to clarify, we're talking here about stream things.
Yeah, there's a lot of things we could do that would be cool, unrelated to hobbying and streaming, but in this case, we're just asking you about streaming things.
The streaming things.
So please constrain your brainstorms to cool hobby stream ideas.
So we tossed out a few ideas, right? Like we've been working a lot with pink foam, airbrush stuff, and feel free to be as specific or unspecific as you want. And guys, like we like to joke around. You can see our little silly faces there, and John down the bottom left. But this is kind of serious. We do want to know.
This is very serious.
This is very serious.
This is a very serious.
It's a very serious
discussion.
but informal poll. So pink foam, airbrushing stuff, 3D printing. Should we paint some Age of Sigmar models and/or terrain? Actually, I've seen some requests for Age of Sigmar terrain.
Yeah, that's. I think people. I think that would be exciting. I think people would enjoy it.
I think so too. People love specialty games.
Do you love specialty games?
You and I love specialty games. When I say people, I know you and I are among that subset. Do other people love specialty games? Brett loves Battlefleet Gothic.
I love Somebody pointed out to me that we're flexing by putting BFG minis on the
I think like after our first stream, Matt Lee reached out to me. He was like, hey, I saw those behind you. What's the deal with those?
What's the deal with that? What's going on here?
Bases for models. We actually might be doing this very, very soon.
Yeah.
So basing for models is a big one we want to do. Another idea we were just tossing around is, what if Brett and I just build up a nice large user base here in the stream and then convert to an herbal supplement MLM, multi-level marketing, and let you guys in early
on the ground floor.
On the ground floor of a exciting MLM opportunity. So that you guys can become part of our downline, which means that you guys will buy a bunch of product from us, and then we will. You have to sell it, right?
It's really your job to sell it, and then give that money to us, and then you could recruit other people to do the same for you. It's kind of a cool idea. I don't know if you ever heard of it before.
Yeah, it's a big idea, and the thing is, I will just say
pretty excited about it.
All of your friends are doing it, and if you're not doing it, you're actually losing money right now.
Yeah, it's a pretty big opportunity.
It's a pretty big opportunity.
You really should be. Anyway, not gonna like overly push this idea. Obviously, all of these ideas have equal weight, but Zach and I actually have a lot of product in our garages right now that we need
several tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Anyway, that's one possible way we could take this.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then the last one, if you have any ideas,
just other things,
besides that totally random list of
hobby
ideas that we could do. So
now a couple things. In all seriousness, we should say two things. One, yes, please toss out any ideas either here or in the stream, because we can go back, we can watch the live stream chat. And the second thing I should say, just to be 100% clear, in case it ever comes back to bite us in the butt, is that we're joking about the MLM.
That was a joke.
That was
in
a
case
joke.
You couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Multi-level marketing schemes are illegal. We would never do that.
Well, they're kind of legal. That's a whole other conversation. But anyway, the point is, ideas other than the multi-level marketing idea, which we might circle back to. It's a but for now, yeah.
Okay, all right, cool. Thanks guys for entertaining our weird obsession with MLMs.
Yeah, and thanks Brett for entertaining my extra weird obsession with MLM.
If you ever have a one-on-one conversation with Zach late at night about stuff, he will almost certainly bring up MLMs.
Which I've never done one and never want to, but I just think they're so interesting.
Yeah.
So in all seriousness, thank you in advance, because we do want to. We can do anything here, right? Like we can do terrain. Brett and I feel pretty confident jumping into anything. So if there's something like bases, specific, be as specific as you want. Say, I want to learn how to do this with my airbrush. We may not always build a whole episode around your suggestion, but it's something like you see when we do a stream, we put a lot of little elements into it, like water masking and putty masking and stuff like that.
There's so many great ideas in chat right now.
Oh, good.
Thank you everyone for all of this great suggestions. There's there's multiple suggestions for 6mm, 8mm terrain for Aeronautica or Titanicus or Epic.
People bring this up a lot, actually. Yeah, another Brett favorite.
Oh my gosh, I've not yet convinced Zach or literally anybody since I moved to California to play Epic with.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not really against any of these things, but it comes down to a matter of, as you and I have talked about before, it comes down to time, bandwidth.
Right.
And it's
That's
not
fair.
It's not even the hobbying, right? Like we've chatted about this. It's not even the hobbying. Like I painted up 3 Aeronautica fleets, huge fleets.
In like a month.
More points than I ever need in about 2 months over the 3 fleets, right? But not long. It's not hard to do. Lots of these games don't require a lot of painting. We should do. Brett has gotten me very graciously a nice 3D printed of the user made one, right? For
BFG.
The Tau fleet. So we should paint those on stream soon too, actually, and then play that. But it's just like we all have this problem, right? Like, oh, do I want to get into this game? And for me, it's like somewhat it's a space in my closet, and it's not the hobby time or the hobby effort. It's the space in my closet, and it's hey, Brett and I are going to get together to play a game. What game should we play? Oh, let's play 40K.
Yeah.
It's kind of like anytime we're not playing 40K, I'm like, should we just be playing 40K? So.
I agree. It's. I think that's one of the things I love about BFG though is it's so light on time and it's like it takes up so little space. It's like 10 models. A lot of the models are out of print, so you can't buy them, which can make the cost expensive. But it's only 10 models. It doesn't take a lot of space to store.
Yeah, Blood Bowl, Necromunda, all these.
That was suggested. Somebody suggested we make a Blood Bowl pitch.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? That would actually be super interesting. I think we should do that.
I've never played Blood Bowl. I've heard so many people. It's like the one GW specialist game I've never played. Except for, I've also not played what's the orc like buggy racing game that Dunsmore always goes on about?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I forget what it's called.
I don't remember the name of it.
Yeah, Blood Bowl's interesting. I think a lot of people say it's like the most perfect rule set GW has ever cranked out. For me, I've played Blood Bowl. A lot of people, it's got this interesting mechanic with ones popping up that I think stresses a lot of people out. But
ones popping up?
Basically, like you can kind of, I'm going to butcher the rules here, I know, but you can do a lot in that game, and then when you roll one, it's like you're done.
Oh.
So you keep doing the individual things and rolling a die until a one comes up.
Zach, so I have a question. I'm going to show this on screen here. So I did this thing, and I got some overspray down here. You can sort of see it.
When we tint, it's not going to.
So you were concerned about the overspray on the white for sure. You saying the overspray on the yellow is not as big of a deal?
Yeah, and that's not a lot of overspray anyway. Okay. I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay, cool.
So what I'm doing here, not anything too unique and special, but I'm going in and I'm using this tarnished copper color to pick out some pipes. Now I've already done some tarnished copper areas with the masking, but I want to add a few more because, like I said, we're going to weather these at the end, and we're going to do the verdigris, the weather oxidation of copper effect, and it's so easy to do, and it's barely even something that I need to show you to do. I'm more or less just showing you the product, but all I'm doing right now is just picking out a few extra spots where I can get the copper in, and I'm going to put a couple other colors in as well. Here my masking didn't work. Interestingly enough, this is almost the right color anyway, so I could probably leave that, but I'm not going to. I want to have the right look. I want to have the control of it. So I'm going to clean that up a little bit, although since it is pretty much the same color as the verdigris on the copper, I'm not super worried about getting it all.
Guys, this is our new super zoom cam. Several of you commented in previous streams that that Zach's detail work was not visible, and so we saw that feedback, and we're like, hey, yeah, let's see if we can add an even more zoomed in view. So thank you for that feedback. Hopefully this sort of meets that need. And we've been playing around with the lighting as well. We've also heard in some of the feedback that the lighting was kind of dark, and we absolutely agreed with you. So we've been playing around with the studio lighting to get better lighting and better visibility for the work that we're doing. Because yeah, we recognize that a lot of this stuff is pretty small, and if you can't see what's going on or it's too dark, then it doesn't do anyone any good.
The trees last week especially were a challenge, right? Because all we ever did with the trees, I actually have them right here. Let's hold it up and see if we can get a little bit of a better look. If you watched last week, the trees were a little bit of a challenge because they're just so dark, right? So this is what we did last week, and I think that looks even better from our angle, from our TV that we look at here. But you can hopefully see a little bit more of the colors. I think one way or the other, it's going to look good. Hopefully on the tabletop when we use them.
Yeah, I mean that'll definitely be fine.
Yeah. So okay, picked out a few copper. What I did here, so you guys can see, is I've got a few different Reaper metals, and I'm just going in and adding some places with different colors. The one actually I took kind of a gamble on this one, sparkling amethyst. It's an interesting color. Here's from when I was using it earlier in the week. It does not come out on its own, but it is truly like a purple, like a brownish purple. Turbo Dork, I know, makes a color kind of like this called Merple that I've used before. And
Turbo Dork.
Yeah, you're like, when you start painting with this, you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a problem because why would there be purple metal? But what I will say is, after we do a lot of tinting, it's not going to look purple. It's going to kind of look like a rich, I guess almost like a copper. I've been doing some of the tanks, so this tank sticking off the side here I'm just gonna give it a coat of this stuff.
Have you played around, Zach, with essentially layer painting on a silver and then tinting it to achieve a similar effect? As what you're doing here, rather than using a colored metallic?
So, no, but that's how it really used to be done. And that's how Andrew Whitehead's Night Lords were done.
Yeah.
Which is, it's these ghost tints that different companies make, they call them, and they're, yeah, it's not a great process. They kind of sit for a while, and you have to let them dry for like 24 hours.
The metallic you do, or the tint?
The tints.
Oh yeah.
That's an advanced technique. I actually have not done that. By the time I wanted to start doing a lot of metallic-y things, the Turbo Dork line is actually a pretty new line. And then I think prompted by them, a lot of other companies started cranking out different metallics.
Right.
Different
Turbo
colors.
Dork's thing is that it's all like sort of color shifty, right?
Well, they have a ton of metallics as well.
Right, but they're what
not,
makes them unique is the color shift paints.
The color shift line, that's true, right. But when they came out, they also released all these normal, just
more standard metallics.
Yeah, more standard metallics. Okay, a couple of purple things on that. I'm going to paint this tank a different color. I'm looking through. You're wondering, like, when you look at it, like, when do we decide what stays and what doesn't stay? Does it make sense for anything to stay? Yes, a lot of this I don't do anything with. What I like to kind of do is sometimes like pick out a pipe. These copper pipes are going in there. I'm going to say this is a different pipe, and I'm going to paint these two right here on this side, this purple color. This past week I noticed something when I was out. I was actually in Santa Cruz, here in the Bay Area, and I was at the Santa Cruz boardwalk, which is a beautiful place, and I was on one of these old roller coasters that they have. And
the Santa Cruz boardwalk is like such a throwback.
Yeah, it's totally, like, it's used in so many movies. They had a list of all the movies that used it, and I remember none of them actually now. I think one of them had Sylvester Stallone. I can't remember. Anyway, one of the things I noticed is people used to do this thing, and I think they still do, where like these pipes right here, they'll like paint them they'll paint them while they're painting everything else.
Yeah.
And like it actually, in the Santa Cruz boardwalk, there was like, I'll kind of show what it looked like here with a marker. There was actually like a spot where the wall went from blue, okay? It was like a blue wall, and then it went to a lighter blue wall above it. They had like painted a different color. I don't have a lighter blue, so I'm just gonna use orange. And there was a pipe in front of it, okay? There was like a pipe in front of it, like running down it, sticking out from it.
Yeah.
And the person had actually painted this part of the pipe blue, and then like tried to line their eye up and paint the top part of the pipe a different color. And I was just like, why don't they just not paint the pipe?
Because when you stand back, they want it to just blend in, like the pipe's not even there. Right?
But it never works, right?
It never works.
It looks more obvious.
It's dumb.
I know that also paint has like this element of protection to it. So I get that that's happening. Anyway, I'm telling you guys all of this, my insane observation on the roller coaster line at Santa Cruz Boardwalk, because it's real, right? So when I go through and I paint these, I think about stuff like that a lot. I think like, look, I here myself, Brad, we like to say like, hey, we think we're good hobbyists. We think we're good painters. But the people painting this are not good painters, right? Again, the servitors.
They're good at doing a different kind of painting. They're painting an entire boardwalk in a day,
Oh, sorry, I don't mean those guys. Maybe those guys are good painters, I have no idea. But I don't think that they care about that level of painting, right? Like you're saying. I mean like in the 41st millennium,
In the
right?
41st millennium,
Like these guys are not good painters. So they make weird choices, and you can relax a little bit when you go to paint your terrain, because you're like, I'm leaving the pipes on this side the same blue as the rest of the model, and I'm doing these.
Zach, I'm going to switch off you for a second just to show what I've been up to. So I have two colors of yellow here. This Averland Sunset that we've used in the past, which is this darker yellow, and then Phalanx yellow. both Citadel colors, is the lighter color. And you can see my test sprays here, what they sort of look like natively. And then, so I based, after I put this, I have this triangle stencil. We put this on. This is similar to the stencil material that we used last week when we did Croûte tents. So this is a homemade one with some of this stencil vinyl, just cut out in a triangle shape. And I applied it to the pink foam, sprayed it all with Averland Sunset, and then came back and sort of did specific splotches with the phalanx yellow to make it look a little bit mottled. And I apologize, folks, I did the stencil reveal not on camera.
That's okay.
The stencil reveal is always the
stencil reveal is fun. But
it's great.
That's okay.
And now I'm going to put a number on here. Zach, and what number would you like on?
I
5?
Boxed off 5.
5. Okay,
yeah.
Great. So I'm going to put a number here. I'll show this guy. So I'm going to do this number 5 right in the center of the
yeah, and again,
triangle.
you guys can see I use painter's tape to go around like the numbers near it because of the overspray. And that's a weird overspray because if you have overspray there's going to be like a slight number 4 showing up.
Yep. Don't want that.
Don't want that.
And so then I'm going to do this with Abaddon Black.
Yeah, awesome. I am on the panels now and just doing a little more of this purpley amethyst color. Okay, don't want the screen that color, but also don't care if the screen has a little bit of weirdness going on. I'm kind of making a big mess here.
Oh, thank you, Bill.
To clean that out.
I knew what I was doing. I didn't even wasn't even conscious. Apparently, I did do the stencil reveal on camera, and I was just sleeping. On the
good.
Job.
Yeah. So just a few more. Again, this purple. It ends up almost being like a copper kind of look, like a darker copper, I guess. I'm into it. Once we tint it, doesn't look quite right. I admit right now. Now I also want to get a lot of copper in on this, so. I'll show you guys what I did copper here. The big reason I'm really thinking about the copper colors specifically when I'm doing a few going through these and adding a couple details, I'm not going to verdigris this purple, this amethyst. It's called, so I think I said the name of it already, but Reaper calls it sparkling amethyst. I'm not going to verdigris this, but I am going to verdigris this bronze, and I'm going to verdigris this a little bit. I'm heavily going to verdigris this. This copper right here, yeah, these two colors are what I'm going to do verdigris.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm doing any of these models, I'm kind of thinking about like getting the copper on there because wherever I get how I did these panels. So these guys are all done with their second layers. Oh, there's one more silver thing I want to do here, so I'll do that real quick, and then actually I'll come back. Let me show you guys how I did these while Brett's got the camera on me. Those are the ones we're working on right now. I'll put a finished one next to it. And I think for the like 1,000,000th, maybe we didn't use the gold marker last week, but here's the finished one. Okay, and so you can see where the verdigris is right here. The kind of greening. Here's rust effect. We're going to work on some rust effect today as well.
So this is like copper corrosion
that
we're applying that makes it look greenish blue. Yeah.
Yeah. So here, then I kind of did an interesting, I did copper all around here, and I was like, what's going to happen? How's it going to look if I take a shortcut and use the marker pen, which we always talk about, these Baoke metallic craftwork pen, okay, B-A-O-K-E, and just go around here on the edges. But then, I'm going to do this on these, but I'm not going to do it on the top part here. I'm going to actually toss the copper on there. My thinking here was, this is like I love the Baroqueness and the gaudiness that the Imperium affords, because what I can now justify this is like, they notice that, these are facing out and they want to look nice, so they just put like some stupid gold plating on it or something, right? On this part only.
Yep.
And then the top is going to be like the copper, right?
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my idea behind it. So it ended up looking pretty good. I was pretty happy with it. And I think it all adds into, this marker is about dead. Thank God I have another one. So it ends up being this kind of subtle change from the gold on the front and back facing to the copper on the top. but I'm into it. So whenever you can justify your shortcuts with what's going on, that's a good idea. And look, the thing is, if it doesn't look good, it doesn't look good. Don't do it, you know? Try it out. If it doesn't look good, that's not an okay shortcut.
Yeah, it's not a happy accident at that point.
That's not a happy accident.
All right, I'm gonna switch over and show this stenciling. So I've got this number 5 lined up. My yellow paint is dried now, so I can do this without worry about smudging it. And I've got black loaded in my airbrush.
And you're using
Abaddon black.
Abaddon black, super black.
Super duper black. And there we go. Oh, there's a little bit of, it snuck out. That's okay though, right?
Yeah, that's totally okay.
That's great.
That looks fine. Yours is actually nicer than mine. Yours is like
diorama number 5, which is different from Mambo number 5, which we talked about last night also. Oh my gosh, so many good.
Wow.
I'm surprised that Bridger's here cross-stitching and he's laughing in the background. I'm surprised there has not been a meme about Mambo number 5 from last night yet.
I like that you were like, I'm surprised that, and then you said Bridger's here cross-stitching, because I'm definitely not surprised
I'm not surprised that Bridger's here cross-stitching.
I'm actually highly grateful Bridger's here cross-stitching.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every time we start a stream, there's like, the 10 minutes before the stream, there's some horrific...
or more than one.
Multiple like IT issues that pop up sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating. They're not really horrific.
Today I went to plug in the headphones to check some audio, accidentally turned off the computer. I was like, oops. And then Bridger was like instantly there to fix the problem.
Which was really great. Just turning the computer back on. You and I could have done that. Let's not kid ourselves.
Probably, but not guaranteed. There's like a 90% chance we could have. Anyway, yeah. How's your gold lining going?
Pretty good. I think I'm done with the gold lining. So there they are. So the only thing I really have left to do now, I'm gonna, again, when you're like when you're going through and doing like detail work on terrain, especially like with different metallics, like pick a few, right? So I picked the amethyst. I picked, my silver is this one called tarnished steel. And then I have the flat copper, which is going to do heavy verdigris, and I have tarnished brass, which we're going to do light verdigris on. And what I'm going to do now is just hit a couple areas, because I don't want to be here all night with you guys. No offense, not really you guys, but just you guys probably also don't want to be here all night with me. So I'm going to just hit a couple areas real quick with tarnished silver. Just a couple pipes, a couple cool metal panels looking around here. This one, we don't have to like overthink this one because it's not going to get any like weathering effect, specific weathering effect on it. So just find a couple things that I think might look cool if they're slightly silver. There's a tank here that I wanted to do. Down at the bottom. Again, it just kind of like helps break up like all the red, all of one color thing, issue, which is a big thing to do, like honestly. We did that. We talked about that concept when I painted my Simon Hornet, and just like getting in there with like a decal or getting in there with like a stripe, like something, so that it's not all the same color.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of important, I think, honestly.
When you've got big flat areas that are all the same color, you need to break them up somehow. A little bit of visual interest. Exactly,
and if I'm 100% honest about why I love, like other companies make terrain kits, although not a ton. GWs, they're so good at just putting stuff everywhere, so there's always something to interact with, and like basic techniques go a long way. Which is why, like, when people talk about like, oh, I want to get started on a terrain board, I like to say like pink foam, like those hoodoos we did in our second stream a month or so back. Those hoodoos are great, but then like a couple of GW kits go a really long way, because your painting is just, you're going to be like, wow, I'm an awesome painter. Like when you start like using basic techniques like dry brushing and washing and stuff on terrain, it really goes a long way.
I believe the technical term for that is greeblies, Zach. GW kits have lots of greeblies.
Oh yeah, is that the technical term?
Yeah.
I think in Louisiana they call that lagniappe, which is
lanyap.
Lanyap, yeah, right.
I've literally never heard that word.
Which is like, I lived in Louisiana for a couple years. It's like a French word. It means like something extra.
Oh.
And they
Love
like,
it.
yeah, it's like.
This is a second fun fact for the day.
Yeah.
We learned about how many industrial accidents happen every year, as well as.
Lanyap.
Okay.
Yeah, lanyap, I think is how it's pronounced, and it's like a big example of lanyap is like you order a Bloody Mary and they like put like a shrimp and like a piece of fried chicken.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Wait, why is your water yellow?
So this is a. Don't do this. When you have one of these squeeze bottles, you squeeze out water into your airbrush cup. You have to lift it up before you release the squeeze bottle.
Yep.
Otherwise, you just squirt water into the cup, and then if you release it, you suck that same water back into up into the straw that is now have paint on it.
Do you want, if you want, there's like a whole big thing of extra water here.
Okay. Yeah, probably.
I just don't know how
Zach,
you know,
California's in a drought.
it's
We have to
my
conserve water.
airbrush. It is my Badger, so I'm just not sure how clean you're getting it with water that has paint in it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So yeah, there's that extra water there.
I mean, that's my role in this channel, Zach, is to make all the mistakes so that we can talk about them, and then you guys don't have to make them. You're like, I remember that thing that Brett did on Hobby Titans. Not going to do that.
His water is suddenly yellow. But the airbrush seems to be not having issues, so I guess it's okay.
No, I'm diluting all of these paints just a little bit, which I think helps with that. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'm just.
What are you diluting them with?
With the yellow water, Zach.
Oh,
gosh.
Okay. Interesting, yeah.
So your real concern is not so much that I'm clogging your airbrush; it's that I'm accidentally yellow tinting this whole terrain piece with.
Well, you're about to use like a kind of drab green.
All right, here we go. I'll make you happy.
Yeah.
Get rid of it.
It's just weird to see it. I looked over. I was like, "Whoa, what happened to Brett?"
Yeah, it does sort of look like something else. Could be a lot of things. But
yeah, apple cider vinegar.
Apple cider.
Exactly.
Some orange juice.
Okay, so I'm finishing up here, and which means you and I are both about ready to do some tinting pretty soon here. I think I'm good. Well, there's one more thing here. So yeah, you're going through. You got your metallics, and you're thinking about just breaking up color a little bit with a few different metallics. I would recommend whenever you do this, I would recommend picking up like a warm metallic, like a copper or a brass.
Yep.
And like kind of setting them aside early on and saying like these are going to be the colors when I paint my industrial terrain, like this warm copper, this brassy gold weird bronze color, and maybe like a silver, right? Like a random silver. And these are going to be the colors. I don't run them through the airbrush a lot. I don't do a lot with them. Things aren't these colors overall, but I'm going to just pick out details with these colors a little bit. Okay, so Brett and I are both ready for tinting.
Yeah.
We tint all the time on this channel. So,
and just to cover, tinting is, if you're new, tinting is the idea that we don't want this terrain that we're making today. It's going to live on a board, and that board has a color palette. It might be sort of a greenish. It's like an Instagram filter. It might be a sepia board. It might be a mossy board and so have sort of bluish greenish overtones. It might be a desert board and have yellowish orangish overtones. And so you can take a terrain piece, paint it whatever color you want, and then tint it with that overtone, and it applies a filter, essentially, an Instagram filter.
That's how I like to think of it, yeah.
To the terrain piece. And so for this board, the filter color that we're using is green. And so we have this...
we use known oil too, yeah, but
known oil first, just to kind of generally darken it.
Yep.
And then this, Athonian camo shade.
Right, not Agrex.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Instagram filter is like a good term, or just like any kind of filter, right? And the nice thing about it is it brings everything together. So every terrain piece that's going to go on this board is going to be tinted this color, and so nothing looks weird, right? Like if you don't have a board like that, we've all gone to like the game store and made use of the terrain there, and it's like one thing has like a snow base and one thing is like a piece of small size like cantina or something, and you're like, okay, you know, in addition maybe to just the themes being wrong, you have like this issue where things look like they belong in different environments.
You've got some Mordor terrain next to some, to some Star Wars terrain next to some Hogwarts terrain.
They made like a Halo game at one point, and nobody played it or bought any of it. And then I'm sure like a lot of those like little Halo ships are just floating around. I know I've seen that before. I'm like, oh, that's a ship from Halo, I think.
Yeah.
Has being used as some scatter terrain. Okay, I said I was done, but I actually forgot, guys. The railings on all these panels, I want to set myself up for the verdigris. So the railings on all these panels need to be this copper color. As I was mentioning earlier, but it's a pretty quick process and gives Brett a chance to tint before me. How's that going?
Yeah, you can. You know, I always underestimate how much of the tint that I need, so I didn't fill my airbrush cup enough. But yeah,
it goes fast.
It does. You know what I like? Actually, I was sort of kicking myself here for what I thought was over applying the tint, and I'll show you guys on camera what I mean here. So in a couple spots here, I don't know if you can see this, like right here, I applied this.
It looks good.
But it sort of, there's many little tiny small puddles, and I did it on this side as well, right here. There's sort of like, it's got some little puddles, and it almost, my first thought was like, I over applied the tint. And then I was like, no, that's like exactly what it should look like. It looks like dirt and grime.
If you pull mine up, which is here, I'll grab it. You can.
And you put it on the turntable.
Okay, yeah. So you can actually see that I do that too.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yep.
Here is a big mess. In the front, I intentionally like all of this.
Yep.
Right, and I think it's like a good look.
It looks great.
I actually like to heavy around the on the inside.
Okay.
Into the corners to kind of make it look like they haven't drained it. You know, they haven't set up drainage properly.
I like it.
So a lot of it's going to like accumulate there. Yeah. So Brett, let's get can we?
Sure.
Yeah. Or switch to you actually, because this is what you're doing is a little more. Yeah. Look at that. I mean, some of that shadow from the lighting, but you can kind of see the excess there in the corners is a good look. And are you doing the green right? Oh, you're doing Null oil. Right
Null oil, yeah.
This. So tinting is nice. It's not again not a hard process, not something where I put a lot of thought, but like Brett's saying, I actually really do like to intentionally put like some splotchy puddle areas. And anywhere where you leave a puddle, like you have one kind of right there in the middle, it's going to always kind of look like it was a puddle and maybe dried.
Yeah.
And so it's going to kind of, like it implies like depth, in this way.
I was playing around with just like kind of blowing the ink around, like not actually applying more paint here, just like blowing it around with the air. That's kind of cool. The
other thing you can do when you're running out there is like just put a little bit of clear water in there.
Oh, okay.
And then
and dilute it.
Like, just like get the last little bit of the non-oil blasting out there.
All right, I'm gonna do one more. I'm gonna switch over to you, and then do one more kind of pass with the null oil.
Okay. I am finishing up these railings. This is not a good brush. This is not the most lovely application of painting. But I am getting it on here, and it's going to be tinted, and it's going to have a lot of weathering effects, so I'm not super into worrying about how like nice and smooth the application is. We will do some models soon as well, guys. We've been doing a lot of terrain, and in general, we do a lot of terrain. But we will do some models pretty soon where we won't be able to say things like, hey, it's terrain, you can just make a big mess about it, because certainly that's a question that comes up, right? Like, I love showing different ways of doing the same thing. I love showing all kinds of different ways to make terrain. But sometimes, like with a model, there are different ways to do it, but you know, you can't fall back on these excuses of like terrain. Terrain is very forgiving, is my point here. So we're going to be doing some models in the pretty near future, and this board is almost finished. We're going to squeeze one more stream out of this board when we're going to tackle its kind of climactic, visually climactic centerpiece.
Oh yeah, it's centerpiece.
The centerpiece.
Because every board needs to have a centerpiece, right?
Yeah, so we've got just the centerpiece left on this board after today.
Zach Pfeiffer piece of wisdom for board design.
For board design. Yeah, well, I think it's nice. And like we've said before, the centerpiece is good, especially, you know, these guys, they use the same board for 3 straight games. And why I like the centerpiece is because some missions don't want a centerpiece. And so you can not have the centerpiece in, and you get an effect that way too. So, or you could, you know, otherwise you could put the centerpiece usually outside of people's deployment zones.
Or if it's a giant centerpiece and you're playing against Space Marines, you want to be a jerk, you just put the centerpiece in the center so they can't oath.
Yeah.
Instant win. Love it.
Instant win against Space Marines. Shut down.
How to win every game against Space Marines with clever terrain placement.
Yeah, we should make that YouTube video.
That's all right. So I'm done with Null and Oil.
Yeah.
I'm gonna switch over to Camo Shade, Athonian Camo Shade.
Ooh, this is gonna be great. You know what? I think we're gonna pace ourselves here together.
How are we doing? Yeah.
That you're gonna be able to, I think, help me do some fun weathering.
Okay. Great.
We'll have to do a little pass back and forth because I only have one of the weathering stuff, but I think it'll be okay. Which is great. I'm actually going to now do...
Here's the known oil.
The known oil, yeah. Let me get the brush. So all my detail work is done. All my detail work is done. And now I'm just tinting, and then that's going to dry. And then our final step is going to be to dry brush a bunch of this stuff.
So I need some advice here. Should I wait till this Null oil dries before I do the Camo Shade?
That's a great question. You don't know. You really don't have to.
Okay.
At all.
Okay.
Like this isn't even like it'll look one way if you do, it'll look another way if you don't. It really won't
literally doesn't matter. Okay. And should I try to like sort of achieve a splotchy effect like I did with the Null or am I just kind of covering the whole thing with a bath?
No,
of
you could
Camo
do like
Shade?
splotchy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
I'm looking back at mine.
Our inspiration piece
behind you. As I Null oil things up here, getting immediately quite dark. Right. Here's one that's finished compared to one that is not. Hiding a lot of mistakes.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Hiding some sloppy painting from my behalf, and I'm like not afraid to get like runny spots in here at all. In fact, I want that.
It's a feature.
It's a feature. And so, you know, we talked about like leaving stuff like that skull right there in the middle. I didn't even paint that. I'm not worried about it because the tint's going to do one thing to it, which is fill in the areas kind of in some interesting ways. And then when I dry brush, that's going to do yet another thing to it. And by the end of it, it is going to look like it's been painted a little bit. Stuff's happened to it because we're going to pick it up on the dry brush.
Yeah.
There it is. Okay, we're going to pick it up on the dry brush, and we're picking it up with the wash as well. You know, sinking down into the recesses. So it's okay on these pieces to leave a lot of it unpainted, not go back and pick out a particular color. I do that all the time, actually.
I'm gonna take the camera again, Zach, because I want to show this step. I'm kind of amazed every time I use this tint. I'm super amazed. I'm basically like painting on moss. It's crazy. So I've done a little bit over here. I don't know how well you can see the coloration there. The fact that that's actually like green and here, but it literally looks like I'm painting on moss. It's amazing. You're just like, oh, I want this to look like there's some algae and some like organic growth. Yeah. I'm just gonna spray this camo shade on it, and it now looks like this building is transformed from being in a industrial, burned out city to being like in the middle of a forest, having nature sort of like reclaimed it.
Exactly. That's the goal.
So you can see the difference between like this wet spot is very greenish and this is very blackish. So this is an oil spill and this is moss growing on the concrete. And I'm sure you can do some cool stuff with like mixing the black and the green, which I'm gonna try. I guess you just get darker green, huh?
Yeah, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's all about the variation. This is amazing.
Yeah, it's a good look. One of the next boards I think we're hopping to, we'll use Beal Tan Green, which is like the turquoisey type green.
As a shade?
Yeah.
As a tint?
That's the tint for that board, yeah. We've already done it, some of it actually. It was the trees with the little blue tops and stuff. Yeah.
Yep. First ever hobby stream featuring Adrian.
Yeah.
Trees with blue tops.
Trees with the little fuzzy blue top things. Okay, so I am now going back and tinting the very first thing I painted today, which is the floor panels. When you do tint, when you do shoot GW airbrush, you guys can actually see some of the stuff, which is great that we have our fume remover thing, our filter. It does like kick up a lot of, this is a shade, so it's just like everywhere.
Yeah.
So you need to have ventilation when you do, well, in general, you should have ventilation and a mask when you're airbrushing. But it's nice to especially have some kind of like strong fan pulling something somewhere.
Yeah.
We do have a little fan that we have off to the side here. I can kind of aim stuff away from us a little bit. There we go.
The filter's doing an amazing job. You can see it all kind of getting sucked over the edge.
Well, what we've learned is that it goes towards the
towards the camera.
Guys, now it goes right towards the camera. It's like a. Yeah, we should put the fog machine right in front of us. Okay, cool. So I am done with non-oil, and I had more non-oil than I thought. We still have plenty, so didn't have to use the Death Shroud Clear.
Okay, I'm done.
There you go. So I just have green to do, and then we can do some weathering together.
Yeah. Chat. So we're building some terrain pieces / dioramas tonight. Curious what you guys are all building.
Yeah, how is chat
tell us? Chat's doing awesome. We got like we said, we got a bunch of great ideas for suggestions of things to do. But yeah, let us know what you're doing tonight.
Yeah, now actually we missed a call out too last week. Orc Zach, who's kind of in the area, met up, got to meet Adrian at the major Adrian went to. And Orc Zach had actually reached out to you and I, both on the stream and on the Discord, about a display board. And we gave him, what was it?
Nothing.
Okay. We gave him, I won't look, you can surprise me with it or tell me later. We kind of talked a little bit with Orc Zach about using some pink foam. I like to think we gave him some ideas. He ended up winning
best painted
at that major.
Congrats, Orc Zach.
And the display board looked great. So that was super awesome to hear. Thank you actually for sharing all of that with us.
Yeah.
I don't know that we. I think he would have. I think he would have gone it on his own because he just needed that. Hey, use pink foam, and then the rest was all him. Really, I think. Yeah. I'm looking at your thing.
Digital designer is priming models, and I'm going through the chat as people are telling us what they're doing tonight. Bill is building a squig buggy, a Rucka Truck squig buggy. I actually don't know what that is.
I don't know
they
what
go
that
with beast snuggas, so I'm assuming that's orcs. Yeah. Ernie is working on a fallen Terminator. Oh, that's interesting. Super curious to see is it Dark Angels, presumably? Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, is it just a normal Terminator? Does it look like just a normal Terminator?
Bridger, are you raising your hand over there? No. Oh, he's just stretching.
He's just laying down.
Oh, okay.
He's just laying down. He's like the kid who's like, oh, I'm just stretching.
Melody is doing some brick bases for her sisters. Dead Muppets doing Poxwalkers. Mont Dieter building some Tomb Blades. Oh, yeah. Played Necrons yesterday. You know, that was like my second ever game against Necrons. I keep talking about this game because I had so much fun with it. But that was my second ever 9th Ed game against Necrons. I'm tempted now.
You like it?
Yeah, I think there's some cool modeling. I've seen the like sandstone Necrons. Did Midwinter do that? But yeah, I'm tempted by some of the sort of more hipstery Necron paint schemes. Either like some crazy metallic color or like, I don't know, could you do like an inverse Necron? Like instead of doing silver panels with like black in the joints, could you do silver in the joints with black panels, or some kind of like, I like the idea, like you're saying, of the sandstone look.
Black panels could be super cool.
Yeah.
As long as it was like a well done black, of course.
I mean, yeah.
That's the thing, right?
Black is tough also because you want it to pop. You normally want models to pop on the tabletops, and I don't know if like an all black Necron army or mostly black Necron army would do that, but
you'd be using a lot. But even like going from a dark gray up to a mid gray.
Yeah. Could you do Tron Necrons? Would that?
I've seen Tron Tau before.
I've seen Tron Tau. I don't love it, but
yeah, I don't love it either.
Tron Necrons.
I've seen Tron Tau and Tron Drukhari.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, yeah, I think like I'm tempted, and if I were to do it, it would be like some like not. I would try to do something different with the paint scheme. But yeah, I think the trick there would be having it look different, but not like gaudy or too hipstery. Like there's a line there where I think Tron Necrons would be a little too far, but
hipster Necrons.
Yeah.
Okay, we have tinted. We have, we're totally tinted up. So, ooh, that was probably really loud for chat in the mics. So where we're at now is kind of a cool step.
We're good on tinting?
We're good on tinting.
We're ready to weather?
We're dry brushing now.
Okay. Can I give you a hand?
You're going to dry brush that thing too.
Okay.
But yeah.
After it dries. It needs to dry, right?
And my stuff is looking pretty dry, some of it. So yes, we're going to do some tinting or some dry brushing now. And when you weather a model, almost always, when you weather anything, we're going to be doing rust effects, and we're going to be doing, like I said, the verdigris on the copper.
Yep.
You want to paint everything completely. That includes dry brushing. So you really want to like finish the model and then layer the weathering on top. It kind of depends. You could make the case that we are weathering these.
Yeah.
Right? But this is like a very, I just put a big fingernail print right there, or thumb print. This is sort of like, that's what this is, right? Yeah. This is like the green and like the algae, the plant.
It's really scary. I only recently started playing with weathering on my miniatures.
Yeah.
And it is terrifying because you spend hours and hours and hours painting up your dudes, your precious plastic toy soldiers, and then you're like, all right, the first time you put that like big grimy black streak down the middle of his back, you're like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm doing the thing.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of guts.
I don't really typically weather my models that much.
You're not super into weathering models, but terrain.
Like to weather terrain. Okay, so
that's it. The idea is the same though, that you're like, you completely paint the thing and then you mess it up. Yep. And it's really scary.
Yeah. So, okay, I think this is dry enough. Yep, looks good. So you'll do red.
Okay.
You're going to do fair. This is going to be your color.
Okay.
And you're going to largely, Brett, try to avoid the like metallic areas. It's not really going to matter if you hit them.
Okay.
And while Brett does that, I'm going to give you this one, a little bigger. I'm going to weather the green ones, the mint ones, with the misty gray color. Okay. So Brett is weathering with kind of like, a very, very light beige.
Yep.
Not weathering, excuse me, guys. Dry brushing. So just getting some out here. I'm weathering with a super, super light gray. Just getting some out here, foggy gray, Reaper foggy gray. And really make sure you get what you really want to like think about when you dry brush stuff like this is you want the brush to be like very saturated with the paint, but then also like deep into the brush, but then also at the same time, it's not like sitting on the top of the brush, right?
Use this guy?
Yeah, there's one.
This one.
You can use that one as well. Either one. And the big thing with this kit is you want to. It has angles every which direction, and so really you just want to start. I'm going to say I'm going to go this way first, and then I'm going to switch to vertical here in a second. So right now I'm hitting things horizontally, and you can see I'm not like, again, not really thinking too much about it, just hitting things horizontally. It's a little damp right there. I'm going to try to kind of avoid that area. We're always, you know, we do this a lot on the stream, so we don't just sit here and like twiddle our thumbs with you guys while we work. But ideally, you would wait for this to totally dry from your tinting. Ooh, that's picking up what's the marker brand? Crayola?
Yeah.
That's picking up a little Crayola marker right there. We might have just stumbled onto a new hobby technique.
I want to thank everyone in chat for all of the great Necron, hipster Necron color suggestions. Apparently synthwave Necrons are a thing.
Ooh, I'm into
How would
it.
you feel about that, Zach?
I don't. Well, I think I would love it actually.
Like pinks and purples
maybe
and teals?
My tower a little synth wavy.
Yeah, a little bit.
So I think like a little bit is okay.
Yeah.
But I'd be worried about too much synth wave.
How do you feel about marble Necrons?
That could be cool.
Or ceramic Necrons?
Ceramic super into. We've seen GW's had kind of an army like that at one point. That's super wet, so I'm really gonna avoid going down there too much. You can see if I get brush strokes. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I get a little bit of brush strokes. I kind of just quickly use my finger to clean that up real fast. If you don't do it right away, you kind of lose the ability to do it. Then I just do a little bit of vertical ones to pick up like these panels. If I get this dry brush color on like the copper, it's okay because we're gonna dry brush the copper again anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And anyway, it still looks good, so not really a big deal. As you dry brush though, if you are like in a rush, we're not really in a rush, but if you are kind of you know, doing it while it's still wet, just look out for the areas that are wet. Like for me, this panel right here, I really saturate it with Nuln Oil, and so it's like still there drying.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna switch over and show what I've been working on here. Yeah. So I've got these red panels, and I'm using kind of a light pink color for dry brushing, and I'm just catching the edges here. And it's interesting, I feel like my technique for this type of dry brushing changes as the paint on the brush dries more. I feel like when you first start, right after you first apply the paint to the dry brush, you have to have a really light touch because it's still sort of half wet. And then as 10 or 20, 30 seconds have passed, you have to get sort of more aggressive with the brush because the paint's kind of dried more, it doesn't come off the brush as easily. And so you end up just sort of more aggressively applying the brush to the edges until you're now like, until at some point, it doesn't matter how aggressively you're applying the brush to the edges. It's just not gonna happen. No paint's coming off, you're not getting anything, and that's when you know it's time to go back to the paint pot on your palette. But yeah, this is super satisfying. This, as you were commenting before, these GW kits have amazing edges that pick up your paint, and so you can just get a really good look without a lot of effort.
Yep. They know what they're doing when it comes to like a terrain kit and being like, yep, you can just use some techniques.
All right, I'll go back to you, Zach.
That's fine. This is just about done. So there's the green. Now, if we were not going to weather this, then it'd be done. And again, the color where it looks up is kind of a far cry from this color, which is, you know, the paint I used.
Yeah.
You can see quite a far cry from that. So the techniques, the tinting, the dry brushing, everything really brings it back down so it looks realistic. Sometimes, you know, a paint like this, you'd be like, that's gonna look crazy if it's a terrain board.
But as an accent color, dry brush highlight, looks actually really good.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like these are red struts that I'm working on, and I'm dry brushing them with this like white, almost pink, and it's not making the model look pink, but this edge highlight looks really good. It's like a white, but with a little bit of the color in it.
Now, the panels, the floors here, the metal, you'll recall this was blackened steel and then true silver. And you can see some of the spots here where we did the tinting, or the masking, the water masking. You can kind of see it's created like these little just discoloration areas all over the place, which I love. The tint does that as well. Anyway, blackened steel and then true silver. We're gonna dry brush true silver. I find that this is frequently the case where like we're gonna go back to a color that was maybe the last color we used, but keep in mind we've tinted things a lot, right, since then. So we did already use true silver, because normally you'd say, well, why am I going to use true silver to dry brush when the last color was true silver? Well, the last color wasn't true silver. The last color is this gross mix of Nuln Oil and Anthonian camo shade.
It's a beautiful mix of Nuln Oil and camo shade, Zach.
So I'm really making sure that I don't have too much on here. You saw me getting some off of my thumb. I'm gonna start right across here. This is a great place that's gonna pick up stuff, but it's not gonna leave extra mess. So it was like almost my test spot, the ladder.
Oh, I just did it. I put too much on, and I'm having to go to the thumb technique.
Yeah. And if it ends up looking streaky even after the thumb technique, no problem today, because that's just a spot we'll make rusty.
That's right.
And then these GW panels, again, like Brett was saying, they're perfect. Like all these little edges stick up just enough to look how crazy they pick this up. And it doesn't look like I'm like putting, like literally, this is like so, like you could give this to it came a little loose. You could give this like a 4-year-old who's never painted and just say, you know, if you guys have got kids, just like pass it off and be like, okay, take this brush that I've prepped and made sure there's not too much silver on, and just go hog wild, and there you go. You can see a difference. This one has had a bunch of true silver dry brushed on top of it, and this one is not yet. And that's it.
I love it.
Yeah. And you can see I wasn't really being that careful with this process. But I would, the one thing you did see me do is I first did the edges and the ladder before I went across like the flat surface. I would probably recommend that. Like, make sure you know what like every time you go in for a dry brush, you're kind of like getting a different yield. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So you want to start off like Brett was saying with
you have to be very cautious.
Very cautious right away.
The first brush stroke you make after dipping your brush in the paint to reload is like the most dangerous swipe. And
yeah, exactly. What I'm doing right here, like the dry brush edge highlight hybrid style here, is a good place to like get some of the paint off. So I'm thinking I'm okay. So here I go. This is the wild, picking up all the little rivets, picking up all the little edges. There we go, nice and easy.
I feel like, we talked about this before too, but I feel like the dry brushing step is something that if you're new to painting and you're trying to build your confidence, that especially working on terrain, you can quickly get really nice results with. It's not that it's not hard, like it's actually a technique that you can get better at, but it's a technique that where you can go with only a small amount of skill. Like if you're just kind of starting out, you can get some models turned out, some terrain pieces that can be really proud of, because they really do come out amazing.
Yeah, a little goes a long way, definitely. Okay, and so let me check this guy. This I did, oh yeah, I did do a little silver on this, so let me hit that real quick as well. If you ever like are dry brushing and you put your dry brush in water, and then you're like, oh, now I need to dry brush with that same brush more, which is what I'm about to do right now. I could grab another brush, I guess, but I won't. I'll just use this one.
You just have to aggressively dry it with a towel?
Yeah, you really want to make sure it's dry, because nothing will ruin the dry brush process better than a wet brush, which, you know, kind of makes sense, right? So let me grab a little bit more of this silver. I'm going to hit some of this brass stuff here.
Zach, what do you think about terracotta Necrons?
That'd be cool.
I actually kind of really like that idea.
Yeah, that'd be super cool.
Thanks, Melody. I think if I do Necrons, I'm probably gonna do terracotta Necrons. I think that's my new favorite idea for Necrons.
That could be super
like clay pot Necrons, like a rust red color.
Yeah. No, it's a cool army. For painting, and they certainly, like, infamously, it has been it's like, hey, what's the easiest army to paint? Necrons. It is always kind of, people have always kind of said that about it, but I don't think it has to be that way.
Hey, let me ask you your thoughts on the green rods.
I don't like the green rods.
Yeah, you're nay on green rods.
Nay.
All right, this is going to be our next orc civilization divisive conversation topic.
Yeah, I mean,
I love the green rods.
Yeah?
I'm so sad that the new Necron line doesn't have green rods.
Here's what I'll say.
Yeah.
I think...
I was with you on the orc civilization, by the way.
I think my thing with the green rods is that it's cool in some ways conceptually. I actually have a terrain kit around here somewhere with these green rods. It's cool conceptually, but I'm sort of just like, I'd rather paint them.
Right.
I can do like some interesting glow effects on the rods.
Yep.
I'd rather do a glow effect, and not have it just be like this flat acrylic look.
Right. That's fair.
For me, when I see the green rod, it looks, I mean,
looks like a shortcut. Like, I didn't want to paint that, so I just got some acrylic rods.
That's okay. Like I said, like, you know, if a shortcut's good, a shortcut's good. Like, we don't judge a shortcut based on the fact it's a shortcut. At least I don't want to. I want to judge it based on,
is it good?
What's the end result, right?
Uh-huh. And so you don't like the end result?
But I don't like the end result on the acrylic rods, to be honest with you. Not a rod I'm a fan of.
All right. Yeah, I think, you know, I remember, like, when that army came out, there was a third-party boom. You know, people, like,
different colors
wanted to do, so there were companies that sold, like, the blue acrylic rods and the red acrylic rods and the yellow acrylic rods, so that you could theme your Necrons in different colors. And I think that's probably why GW went away from them, because it's much easier to give your customers variety if you just make them paint whatever color they are. But they couldn't, you know, there's no point. They're not going to include 6 different options for acrylic rod colors in the kit.
Right.
With every Necron box.
Yeah, I've seen some people use different colors, and I don't know. It's all fine.
Yep.
How you doing over there?
Good. I'm basically done with the dry brushing on these guys. Is there another color you want, or should I switch over to dry brushing this one?
Yeah.
I don't know, do you want to grade my work?
It looks good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I'm going to put these on the glam cam.
Please, yes. And then while Brett finishes his dry brushing, I'm going to get going on rust effect. Now, I'll say, while he has these guys up here, Brett, here's the, if you want to do the blue ones as well. The rust effect I'm about to show you is, there's a number of ways to do rust. The one I'm about to show you is not one I specifically came up with. It is the exact one that Duncan does on the videos he does for Games Workshop. So that is to say, I'm using typhus corrosion. And starting off here with typhus corrosion, what I'm going to do is put just some spots on things, some areas, And typhus corrosion basically has sand in it. And what's cool about that is that sand then can pick up dry brush, and then that's going to be the second step to rust effects. It's just 2 steps here. There is a 3rd step we can take on some areas we'll talk about. But literally just doing his same kind of process here of putting typhus corrosion. Now when you go and you put rust effects on something, the thing you want to think about is like, where might rust happen? And
on the metal parts.
On the metal parts, where rust happens basically on these things. We're doing a lot of metal that has been painted, right? So what the implication here is that paint is gone, and now the elements have free reign right into the metal, and that's what's causing the rust effects. But I like to think specifically rust effects are going to happen where water might accumulate more. So like on these panels, you can see I tend to be doing them closer to the bottom, and not everything even needs that much rust effect. Like maybe this guy right here, I'm going to put not too much. I'll just do a little bit like right down here. But you kind of like to think, well, what's causing the rust effect? And it's water hitting things, right? So where it tends to accumulate is anywhere where there's like these pools where water could pool up.
Yeah.
This one is actually going to have kind of a lot of rust on it now. But even more than that, I would say like be consistent. You can see like here, this is a finished one and it's on the bottom. So I'm kind of focusing like these panels, like doing the rust effect on the bottom a little bit. So there's 3 I just put rust effect on. Maybe I will put very little or no rust effect on this one. Yeah, I'd say I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna let it go. This one got spared from the elements of rust. Let me grab now the ones we have on the glam cam.
Zach, you'll be happy to learn that Chad is overwhelmingly in your camp on this one. That everyone seems to think acrylic rods look cheap.
Oh yeah.
So
I win.
Well,
Sounds
it's not
like
a competition, Zach. But if we were crowdsourcing my next Necron, or, the color palette for my next Necron army, it would not have acrylic rods. Let's just say that.
So actually, I'll leave these red ones for Brett to do when he gets to them.
Okay.
But the blue ones, I'll show you guys where I'm putting.
This is the grime step.
Yeah, this is the typhus corrosion, which I really love, by the way. And when we check in here with me, and we also want to see Brett's dry brush process here in a second, but you can see I'm kind of going down to the bottom of these. These are going to sit in the pink foam that Brett's working on, and so we talked about maybe the thing's not drained that well. You can see I have a brush this brush has actually already been used to put on some typhus corrosion. And typhus corrosion has this cool thing where it kind of ruins the brush, so use a bad brush. But what makes it cool is it ruins it in a way that almost turns into like a sponge brush.
Is this a texture paint?
It is a texture paint. Okay. And so you can get some interesting realistic looks here with like the rust because the brush is been chewed up by typhus corrosion so much. So
but it also chews up your brush.
Exactly.
Oh noes.
Yeah. So don't use a nice brush for this. You're not getting the brush back that you use for typhus corrosion. I can tell you.
Even if you wash it when you're done?
It's pretty tough.
It's pretty tough.
It's pretty tough. Yeah.
All right, then I'll show what I'm doing here. So I'm doing a really sort of, it's almost like edge highlighting. I'm basically just hitting the edges of these concrete blocks. And one thing I'm trying to do here, there's sort of 2 ways, you can think about this, there's 2 ways I could hit this edge. I could either go at it, so the easiest way would be to do it like this way, drawing it up. But what that's gonna do, if you think about it, like the paint as it hits the edge is gonna collect on the bottom side or the outside of this wall. It's gonna collect sort of on this side of the corner. Or I could, brush it this way, sort of down and away. And when I do that, the paint's going to collect sort of along the top edge of this corner. And since we're mostly going to be looking at this train piece from the top, this makes the effect stronger because it's going to be more visible. So I'm actually intentionally going to dry brush in this direction rather than the other so that I get a more visible white line and more visible edge highlight as I'm dry brushing here. Yeah, that's what I'm up to.
And then with those like chips that we cut out with the pink foam, you can get in there and you can go, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's kind of what I like about the rough cutting the pink foam like that. It's awesome for dry brushing. Okay, this is good actually because this means I can pass typhus corrosion to Brett and pass the official typhus corrosion brush to Brett as well. You want to give that a shake before you use it because, like I said, it is sand and so it does kind of settle. It's amazing. I've been using it for a while. I've used it for rust effects and I've used it honestly just for like grime effects in general. I like to take Agrax Earthshade, make like a puddle on something, then put typhus corrosion down. In an inner layer on that puddle, right? So you leave some of that puddle, that Agrax Earthshade, let that dry, and then you can take flocking and put little dots of flocking, and it kind of looks like dirt with some grass growing up, and like the mud is.
Oh yeah, that's great.
The board actually that they're using this week right now on the stream, the one you played on last night, has some of that. If you look carefully. So typhus corrosion is great. It's great to represent grime. It represents rust. It represents dirt. It somehow works for all of these things. I love the product actually. Something I've gone through many bottles of it. Now for our second part of our rust effect. After typhus corrosion, we are literally going to use Citadel Dry Ryza Rust. Again, this is Duncan's formula. I tried it out a while ago and loved it, and it's super easy.
Duncan Rhodes?
Yes.
Oh, okay. You BFFs with him?
No, I just watch his video. I mean, those videos are great. They're nice and short, and he shows a good technique. So Citadel Dry, it's interesting. I've had mixed results with Citadel Dry. I've gotten batches where it's like I open it up and there's like a solid, almost like a sponge inside of it. And I was a little worried when I saw that he uses this technique because I was like, I could just use any orange, but I'll bite it. I'll try the Citadel Dry, and it's been fine. So. This time around it's good. You do want to make sure that your corrosion, your typhus corrosion is dry for this. And then all you're going to do is start dry brushing. And you can be pretty aggressive. And it's gonna pick it up.
Graham mentions astral granite as an alternative to typhus corrosion. I think it's the same sort of type of paint, just has with a different color base. Astrogranite's like a gray. I use astrogranite for my bases. But yeah, it's just like a.
It's coarser, so.
Is it really?
I think so. I use it for my bases as well. I think it's coarser. So I think it would.
Maybe it's different.
It would probably look pretty cool.
I've never used typhus corrosion. This is gonna be my first time. I remember there was a few years ago, there was like a bunch of social media awareness around the like little glass beads that would get used in things.
Plastic ones especially, right?
Yeah, or plastic beads, microplastics. And like, I think it came out that the texture that they use in these paints is like microbeads. Because they would use them for like facial cleansers and stuff, and it was like, oh, then they're getting in the water and they're going out to the ocean and the fish are eating them. And I think it came out that like these GW texture paints have the same kind of like microbeads in them that, that garnered all that publicity back then.
Interesting.
And so now I'm like super cautious about like not, you were talking about like washing your brush. So like now I'm like, I have to get all the like beads off the brush, all the like texture off the brush before I wash it in the sink. Cause I don't want to send any like microbeads out to the ocean and have fish eat them.
With typhus corrosion, that's hard for me to imagine. But
I don't know if it actually is. I just heard that.
Okay.
I probably should like do more research. Maybe it's just like actual dirt and it doesn't matter.
Typhus corrosion feels like sand. It seems like sand is. I don't know. You and I don't know this stuff, right? But it seems like sand would be an easier way and less expensive way than, at least for typhus corrosion. But again, typhus corrosion is a very fine grit. So hopefully you guys can see kind of the rust effect here showing up. Very easy. Yeah, all I'm doing, I'm on the cam here. All I'm doing is getting it on my brush, making sure most of it gets off my brush. Going over the typhus corrosion area, right, with a dry brush. And you are gonna have to like really dig in to get the rust effect. Try not to leave like weird recesses because rust doesn't actually behave that way. It does behave a little bit different than a lot of the stuff we do. Here then we're gonna show like a chipping effect. We'll highlight that with a little bit of silver, like on some of the hard edges where the rust is formed to show that it's been weathered off, chipped off then. Rust is a really interesting process. I've been reading up a lot on rust and copper verdigris and just how they work in real life. Rust is not a self-limiting process apparently, which means, so I've learned that you know, things will just keep rusting, right?
Iron rust, you mean?
Exactly,
yes,
and I think the cool thing about it, and when you apply rust to your models, you want to think sort of to my end, what I've seen people do with rust. There's sort of two approaches to rust. You either kind of want to do some specific kind of areas like we're doing here today, and just not too much, maybe like just small little accent areas. The other way I've seen it look quite nice is totally the opposite. It's when people go insane with it, and everything is just totally rusted out. I'm not sure I've seen a lot of middle ground. It really picks up the bolts nice, you see here. I'm not sure I've seen a lot of middle ground on the rust that I've liked. Also, when you're doing color, when you're starting your board early on and you're saying, oh yeah, I'm going to do some rust on this terrain board, give thought right away to the color then what color paint got rusted through, okay? So I have kind of a color palette I'm using for this taiga board. Obviously it's got a lot of green because it's going to be wilderness, but what color is the actual stuff that the guys have built? And this actual color is, the mint green is almost like a copper verdigris color as we talked about. And I think the rust, the orange and the brown looks really good with it. I also found I like the way this color and red look together. So in a way, this color was like an anchor color, right? Because this color was like, it's gonna make the rust look good, and it's also gonna look good with the red beams. Ooh, see, I picked up some paint right there. It's also gonna look good with the red beams. So rust is a color, right? Like the rust is gonna have a color effect.
It's part of the color palette. Yeah.
So like be thinking about that when you paint, if you're gonna rust stuff at the end. I do love rust, and you know, we see it like naval ships and stuff used to get painted this color, this kind of like mint green color and everything.
I just dipped my dry brush in the water.
Oh, that's okay. You're not using that anymore, right?
I have to do these guys. Oh, that's right. They don't use it. All right, cool.
Yeah. Wait, did you dry brushes already?
With what? These?
Yeah.
These were the ones that were on the turntable, right?
Yeah, you dry brushed them.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So you're good. You're ready for
Crisis averted. I thought I made a mistake, but it was
some
just a happy accident.
Yeah, for some typhus corrosion. You know, it's funny. I feel like I like that people suggest that you and I remind them of Bob Ross's show.
No, it's just you, Zach.
Well, that's funny because Bob Ross, I'm way sassier than Bob Ross.
You are so much sassier.
Yeah, he's like doesn't have a mean thought in his mind. And here I am like angering orc players, you know?
Hating on orc civilizations and Necron acrylic rods.
Not a fan of the acrylic rods.
How do you feel about other types of rods?
Retrieve Octarius data.
Octarius data,
of course.
Or command rods, or I don't know.
You know, the Retrieve Octarius data thing is so interesting because like you wonder. I wonder like, do they know that'll happen, and do they think about it?
They absolutely do not. No.
Yeah. And they, of course, they don't care one way or the other, right? Like it's not like it's a problem.
Yeah, is GW sitting there being like, how?
Everyone's gonna call it.
What are we gonna name this objective so that when made into an acronym, it will become a viral meme?
Yeah.
Maybe retrieve Octarius data.
Yeah.
Nope. I can pretty much guarantee that's not what happens.
That conversation never happened. Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny that you mentioned that. Like, I had that exact same thought. I was like, is this intentional? For like 30 seconds, I was like, no, this was not intentional.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Okay, I'll put these back on the glam cam here. We spin it around and you can see the rust effect on this. Not super up close here, but the nice thing is you're gonna kind of see how like the orange and the brown look there with the green, mint green kind of color. I especially like this top one right here, or this side here. We got little like splatter effect, and all the way down there on it. Over here, some kind of creeped up midway through. So yeah, super into the rust effect. Easy to do. I like Duncan's technique. Highly recommend it. But my favorite is what we're about to do, which is the copper verdigris. You having some fun with some?
Yeah, I'm digging this.
Yeah, it's fun, huh?
I like it.
And don't be afraid to like put huge areas in, especially like in the bases of like where water might sit for a while. Okay, so I'm using what is that? Nihilec oxide.
Yeah, you know, that was what Bridger played last night.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's the Dynasty.
Right? Yeah.
It's the Dynasty, yeah. One of the Necron dynasties.
That's a color you could paint their rods if you were so inclined.
Yeah, actually, it could look cool. So I'm getting kind of a normal crappy brush here, a normal ugly brush, not too big, not too small, kind of small. This is really the best way to describe this product is that it's like a milky wash. And there are two ways to use it. I'm going to kind of show you both because we're going to use both. First, some areas we simply want a lot of pulling. And this does a really good job.
Pooling?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. This does a really good job doing that. And that's kind of like areas where, again, like recesses where stuff's going to kind of sit. Water might, again, the more moisture that copper has applied to it, the more it has this effect. So you can see right around here I did a bunch of pulling. And when you first get your brush going, it wants to do the pulling. It wants, like, you've got a lot of it on your brush and it's going to pull up real nicely. So go ahead and hit a bunch of areas where you want pulling to happen. Right where, like...
I keep thinking you're saying Brian's last name.
Brian Pullen. Wherever you want a little bit of Brian Pullen going on. Okay, you just get in there. And I like to do it, if you look and see where this actually happens, it tends to be right around where copper pipes like go into other things or have seals. And you can see it's super easy to do, easy effect. So that's the first way, once we have a lot of it on our brush. Once it's sat a little bit on our brush, it becomes like this milky, thin film that you can then use to extend the areas that you pull. This stuff dries weirdly very quick as well. So you're gonna go to the areas where you just did the pulling, and you're gonna do like this real thin kind of milky layering if you want to kind of increase it, or go to some areas where maybe you don't want quite as much. And this stuff is so cool. Yeah, it's fun.
Does this stuff stay suspended? Like, do I have to frequently shake? Do I have to frequently shake it?
I would frequently shake it, yeah.
Sorry, everyone. I think we lost you for a brief moment.
Looks like we're mostly back.
Bridger saved the day once again.
Thank you,
Bridger.
Okay, let me, if I can then, Breck, if we can shoulder view when we get a sec.
Yep.
Because I want to go over the 3 steps to the copper verdigris that I did.
Yep.
And I'll show the 3 steps on the finished model, and then I'll clearly go through them again here, so we can see it happen. The first thing, the first step is you're going to have a lot of it on your brush, and you want to put it in areas where you really want like lots of it to show up. And this is what we're talking about, getting pools of it here. Okay, so we've got some pools here. I put a pool here right away, and down here. And you're almost like getting it off your brush at this point. I put a little bit where like ever the copper has some kind of resistance, or the copper pipe goes into some other kind of metal. So you can see it here, 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 all over the place. After that, you're going to start to run out of it on your brush, and it's going to become like this thing where you can just lightly put film, like a film of the verdigris on particular things. That's where I kind of creep up panel lines a little bit more. Creep up areas or creep out away from the pool. I also use that film for the brass or bronze component because it doesn't verdigris quite as aggressively as straight copper. So I put a little bit of verdigris down here in the fan because I used tarnished brass, and here I used the copper. Let me show that to you, and I'll actually show it to you on this guy. My what is it called?
Girders?
Girders.
Struts,
whatever. Scaffolding type thingy.
Yeah.
So first, I get a lot of it on my brush. Okay, and I'm going to look at this thing and say, okay, there's my copper thing. It's really this big thing in the middle. I could verdigris here, but I don't think I've mostly verdigris this amethyst color that I was talking about earlier. So really, it's here. So where do I want it? I want it here like this. Okay. Also the pulling. I like to, while it's really wet on your brush, it's a good time to kind of put it around like rivets. And I'm going up top here where the pipes are. Wherever the pipes go into an area, I like to put a lot of it. Wherever I see like a little band on the copper pipe, and you can see it picks up so crazy good. Like it's just this very easy to control milky wash. And so right now I'm still on the brush has a bunch of stuff on it phase. Okay, and I'm going around here. See, it just pulls up so nicely when you do that. Very easy to work with. Very impressed with this product. Super into it. Probably gonna use it a lot more. Okay, now it's starting to run low on my brush. So I'm not quite in the film part yet, but you can see, no, I kind of am. So now you can see it's just putting in like a light film wherever I kind of work with it a little bit. And that means we can go and we can just like tint stuff to just kind of start to imply that it's getting that. Now, if I see an area where I want more, I'll make a note of it, and I'll come back and probably do one more pass when I have a lot more of this stuff on my brush. Here, I want the film. I want to use the film to kind of go across some of this a little bit. That. And yeah.
I love this. This is such a great look.
Yeah, it's so cool looking. I'll admit, after doing, well, we already kind of, after reading up on copper verdigris for a while, I texted Brett at like 3 in the morning. And I was like, hey, I want to do a whole board where we do like copper verdigris roofs on everything. And so we will.
Can I tell you a funny story about this?
Yes.
So, well, not funny story. Maybe it's a fun fact. Where I went to school in upstate New York, they had they wanted a designer they were building a new building, and they wanted it to look like this. They wanted the whole thing to be this green color that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And so what they did is, in the natural environment, this takes
20 years.
And it's not copper. In this case, the building was steel.
Okay.
But they applied this chemical to the steel that was supposed to like react with. It was like a clear spray, like that and it was supposed to react with sort of things in the air and turn it this like patina color.
Yeah.
And it's similar. It looks similar to this, but it's less expensive than just plating the whole building in copper. Anyway, they did that. The problem is the thing it's supposed to react with in the air is a pollutant. It's like, I don't remember exactly, sulfur or some kind of like, it might have been, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it's a sort of naturally occurring, not naturally, like man-made pollutant that occurs in cities. So like where they did all the testing of this, and where the company that developed this chemical did all their testing, it was prevalent and common because they did all their testing in urban areas. But then when they went to apply it to this building in the middle of nowhere in upstate New York, they
nothing happened.
There was none of this pollutant in the air, and so the steel just, the chemical didn't react, and the steel just rusted, and so the whole building, like 5 years later, is this like brown rust color. And if you go on a tour of Cornell University in upstate New York, you'll see they'll almost certainly tell you about.
I have actually.
Uris Hall, which.
I'm not sure I noticed that. My sister actually worked there for a little while.
Yeah.
I went there. Last time I went to Cornell was 4 degrees. Can you believe that?
I can.
Fahrenheit.
I can.
For our non-American friends,
cold.
That's like very cold.
Negative 15, maybe, guessing.
Awful. Super not cool.
All right, so how long do I have to wait for this? I have to wait for this
Your typhus corrosion.
typhus corrosion to dry before I can dry brush this, right? With the orange?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was premature with the orange. What can I do now? Can I? Is there anything?
How's chat doing?
Chat's good, yeah. Oh yeah, comments about the Statue of Liberty.
Yep, that's what's going on.
That's what's going on here, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a cool idea. I've seen lots of different weathering applied to terrain, and I don't know that I've ever seen terrain weathered in this way. So I'm super into it. Maybe that's just showing my lack of terrain breadth. But yeah, I love this.
Yeah, it's a super cool look, and this is an amazing. I'm always skeptical of technical paints.
Yeah.
But I don't know why, because most of the ones I've used are pretty good at doing what they're supposed to do. So just checking some areas out. Again, like whenever I have like just the film aspect of the paint, guys, I should say that's how I think of it. I think of it as lots of paint on the brush, good time to create these pools of it, like in these like little recessed areas down here. Okay, and then when I have a little bit less on my brush, that's when I do like the filming layers of it, just like lightly.
Yeah.
I love to put it around little bolts and rivets and stuff, and I love to also get it into recesses. Yeah, it's super fun. You can overdo it too, so be careful.
A little goes a long way.
A little goes a long way. Okay, that's mine. I guess you could do some of this, Brett, on your copper if you want. Are you still wet?
I'm still waiting for my grime, my typhus corrosion to dry.
Okay, let me do one more here. Here's these pipes again.
I think I over applied the typhus corrosion. I was like gooping it on to try to get the texture like really built up, but I think that was the wrong idea.
Well, it's gonna look cool. Still.
Eventually, it'll just take 20 minutes to dry. Makes for bad television.
That's okay. We're doing some peaceful copper verdigris here, just nice and green. Look at that, love it.
I like it.
And then this guy's actually almost done. So while I have a lot on my brush, I'm going to pull it up down here. You can see it has like this milky look to it. It's very weird.
Yeah.
Almost hard to do it wrong, to be honest with you guys.
The filming is not something I would have thought to do. I like the idea of, painting where it would pool or painting, as a highlight. But I like the filming looks. It really adds a lot.
Yeah, it makes it. Eventually, all of this will turn this green color.
Yeah.
And the filming makes it look like it's happening everywhere, more spots, like uneven, but not, like unevenly, like
right.
like it does at first.
Yeah. There are some places that haven't accelerated either because they get wet or they, whatever coating was applied to protect it was applied more thinly.
Exactly. Yeah, and the building I think I've talked about a little bit before that I saw like where this looks really cool. There's the Minneapolis City Hall, which I've never been to, has a beautiful roof that has been like very well, like perfectly done this way. And it's cool to see the different stages of copper. It's interesting, you don't think about metal aging, you know what I mean? But metal ages, apparently.
Yeah, totally. And you made this point earlier that some metals, I don't remember the term you used, some metals like corrode and then stop, and then other metals like continue to corrode.
Yeah, it's like a self-contained or something.
Yeah.
So, and with this, basically what happens is, I was reading that when copper patina happens or when verdigris happens, is that it insulates itself from it further at a certain point. So,
yeah, aluminum's the same way. So when the surface oxidizes, it forms a protective layer and prevents the metal underneath that surface layer
Yeah.
from oxidizing further. But steel iron is not that way. So the surface will rust, and then the layer beneath that will rust, and then the layer beneath that will rust, and that will continue until the entire piece of metal turns to a pile of rust. But yeah, copper does not do that, and
Aluminum does like
does
turns
not
like black. Is it like? What
No,
is it?
it turns in air. Every piece of aluminum that you look at has rust on the surface. It's clear. If you scratch it with a knife, you'll expose the virgin material. And then within like a second or two, it will rust over and protect itself. That layer, that oxide will it rusts very quickly, and it's a very thin layer, and it is a protective layer.
Huh. So this guy is done. The teal one here. Brett was finishing up the concrete. So let's put on glam cam.
Yeah.
Let's see the whole thing. There we go. And that's going to be one of our ones. Just did that one tonight. That's going to be one that sits inside of the concrete slab that Brett made. And that's I don't know. That's kind of why I like the concrete slab. Like, so we did two. Oh yeah, let's do it. Oh yeah, this looks great. We did two. Put this here. And again, you're just making a nice little diorama. Look at that. There we go. We did two slabs, and we did four of these sets, or four of these little guys. And so you could put one in there. We have some scatter from when we did scatter a while back, a few weeks ago. These 3D printed crates that Brett did. I went ahead and did a little rust effect on them. Okay, and let's put these guys in here. We got a couple barrels, and look at this. We've got either ruins, just like that, or an industrial structure. And there you go. Little slice of life. One of the worst places to work in the 41st millennium. Got a little leverage on there.
Yeah, that looks pretty awful. Would not want to work there. Ernie's off to his job, but hopefully it's nicer than this place, Ernie. We should do a little forklift for this diorama.
Yeah, I do have a bunch of the Sector Mechanicus, the little machines that come with it.
Isn't there? I feel like there is a forklift as one of those. A grimdark forklift.
Not exactly.
No, what am I thinking of?
There's like a little crane.
Yeah.
I have them here. There's like a little crane as one of them.
Okay.
Yeah. And there we go. Yeah. Nice and rusty. Okay, what do we have left to do here?
Yeah, so I don't think these are going to dry in time for us to paint them. They're still wet.
We can do them later.
We can do them later. Yeah.
So I think.
Is there anything else?
I think that's it. Oh, we did it. Oh, you know what? We forgot to put a ladder on.
Oh, okay.
Let's put a ladder on.
Is there anything we need to
this.
do?
Here,
Okay.
I'll show this.
Great.
Anything? No, nothing left to do. Just enjoy.
Why don't you stop that turntable just so that it's not...
I know, it's so exciting to use the turntable aspect of it. Okay, so here we go. Here's the pipe I did. I actually didn't paint this one on stream, but here's kind of like a pipe, and it's got like a little computer center. This is like the whole work center. And then our ladder, which we need to put someplace safe where someone can safely climb this.
Graham has an excellent suggestion. As an alternative for a forklift, we could use a Sentinel power lifter. I feel like that would fit right at home in this terrain piece.
What is that?
Sentinel power lifter?
Yes, yeah. That would be super cool.
It's I think a Forge World unit that has no weapons. It's just like melee only, and it has like extra strength to represent its ability to carry heavy loads.
No, I think he's right. That's awesome. I forgot that there's like at least one, but honestly, Sentinel in general, you could do some.
Yeah, Sentinel would look so at home here.
Yeah.
This is great.
Are we good?
I think we're good.
We did it.
We built some. Well, what would you call these, Zach?
Work centers.
Work centers.
I don't know.
Work cells.
Yeah, like, it's the grim dark, and you're working in heavy industry.
Industrial. I mean, this is a perfect industrial structure. This actually is. Yeah. That's what we should have.
And actually, using it as an industrial structure is kind of interesting too, because it has its own actual line of sight blocking without the obscuring keyword, right?
So the industrial structures, just in case you're not aware, industrial structures, if you follow the GW standard terrain keywords, from the rulebook, industrial structures do not have obscuring attached to them. But these pieces of terrain, because they physically block line of sight, would effectively have a similar result. Only for models that are taller than the terrain piece would you be able to shoot through them.
Yeah. But, I think probably most people are going to... You could also give it the obscuring keyword.
You could also just give it the obscuring keyword. Yeah.
And treat it as a structure. Yeah. Great. So, let's see. We've got some stuff coming up on our channel and on Tabletop Titans. They are doing... What are they doing tomorrow? Do we know? Yannari versus Space Wolves. Yannari, that's going to be interesting.
Is tomorrow. John's going to be playing that game.
Bridger, Saturday is...
That's toss-up.
Saturday's still undecided. It's going to be 40K?
Yes.
Yeah, 40K. We will be back next Wednesday.
Yeah.
We're working on a couple of videos as well, so keep an eye out for those. Thank you, everybody who migrated over to the new channel, right?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was super
Huge
awesome.
showing of support that we really appreciate. We're really looking forward to doing this. I mean, this hobby stream is going to be a weekly feature. We're excited to get together and paint with you guys every Wednesday night. Let's keep up the good work.
Yeah. Well, with that, guys, let's sign off. And as we say around here, always be creating.